Chapter 205. I've never seen an older sister like this. Kai Yun could not help but say behind her back. She can't wait for everyone in the world to marry as badly as her. Missy, don't be sad. No matter how bad the new son-in-law is, he's still better than the eldest son-in-law. It's ridiculous that old mistress picks so many people for eldest Missy, but in the end, she chose such an unpresentable one. Without waiting for Kai Yun to finish, Shirlien quickly stopped her and said with a frown, "You don't want to live anymore. How can you say such things? If anyone hears you, your tongue will be pulled out." Kai Yun was startled and said softly, "This servant is just angry. I only said it to Missy in private. How would I dare to say it outside? The walls have ears. You're not allowed to say it anymore, understand?" "Yes, Missy." Kai Yun agreed unhappily. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she approached Shirlien. "Missy, do you think eldest Missy said something in front of old mistress?" Shirlien was shocked and her expression changed greatly. Her sister-in-law had no reason to lie to her, and such a lie could not be concealed. If she said it like that, wouldn't she be embarrassing herself in the future? It could be seen that her mother had indeed dropped the matter. In the blink of an eye, her attitude changed greatly. Someone must have said something to her. In this household, other than her eldest brother, there were only two people who had the ability to do so. One was her cousin Gu Fangzi, but she was now bedridden. The other was her eldest sister. Since her eldest sister had intervened, it seemed that this matter could no longer be changed. Shirlien's face suddenly turned sallow and her eyes stared straight ahead. She had long lost her mind. When Shi Fengju returned, Sangwon helped him change his clothes and clean his face before telling him about the matter. Shi Fengju was annoyed when he heard it. What is mother thinking? Why did she suddenly agree? "No, I'll go look for her." "Fengju." Sangwon pulled him. "Mother has already agreed. You have to think of a way before you go." Shi Fengju was pulled back by her. He muttered to himself for a moment before asking, "Did someone say something to mother afterwards?" Sangwon was startled. She shook her head and said, "I don't know either." Her eyes flickered as she looked at Shi Fengju with hesitation. Shi Fengju was also looking at her. When their eyes met, they both understood each other's meaning. Big sister. Shi Fengju suddenly felt even more uncomfortable. He sighed and said, "If that's really the case, then big sister is really." Sangwon didn't know that Shi Yumei was worried about Shirlien, but Shi Fengju knew a little about it. "Fengju, if big sister really said something, I'm afraid mother won't change her mind so easily." Sangwon sighed. She really wanted to ask Shi Fengju if he would help Shirlien to the end, but she felt that it was inappropriate to ask. After all, the one who made the decision was Wang. "I'll talk to mother first. Although it's already decided, it doesn't mean it can't be changed." Shi Fengju patted her hand gently. Sangwon smiled and nodded. The two chatted for a while, and had dinner together. Shi Fengju went to Wang's place alone. Not long after, Shi Fengju returned with a face full of anger. Sangwon's heart sank when she saw that. She knew that she couldn't persuade her mother. Before she could ask, Shi Fengju said angrily, "Mother is really muddle-headed. She actually said that third sister can help me and our family in the future after she marries over. What kind of words is that? It's not like we're going to be in-laws. If they want to help me, I won't even be able to accept it, let alone take the initiative to look for them." Shi Fengju didn't dare to tell Sangwon that his mother had relayed his eldest sister's godlike reasoning. If Sangwon knew about it, he wouldn't be able to coax her the entire night. Then wouldn't third sister be? "Fengju, is there any way to help her? If third sister really marries into the Hong family, her life will be ruined." Sangwon became anxious. "Third sister is also my father's flesh and blood. Since I've decided to take care of this matter, there's no reason for me to give up halfway. Do you think your husband is such a person? All right, don't think too much about it. Didn't mother ask you to prepare? Just prepare as usual. As for third sister, tell her to be patient and not to make a fuss. If anything happens, there'll be no turning back." Shi Fengju said. "That means you have a way." Sangwon's eyes lit up. "Not yet, but I will," Shi Fengju said with certainty. He smiled and asked, "Do you believe me?" "I believe, of course I believe you. How can I not believe in my husband's ability?" Sangwon nodded her head repeatedly. She smiled and threw herself into his embrace. Husband, you're the best. Shi Fengju felt a little sour in his heart. Usually, even if it was just the two of them together, she would still be shy. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for him to get her to take the initiative to say sweet words of love. But now he was only helping his own sister. Seeing how happy she was, she even acted coquettishly towards him. It wasn't that he didn't like it when she acted coquettishly towards him, but he just felt that it wasn't the right time. What's wrong with you? Sangwon was a little surprised. Nothing. Shi Fengju shook his head, but he couldn't help but ask, why are you so happy that I'm helping third sister? You're even more concerned about her matters than I am. Sangwon didn't know where the sourness in his heart came from. She sighed softly and said, I just feel that if she marries that dandy young master of the Hong family, she'll be very pitiful. Although I'm not related to her by blood, I've gotten along with her these days, and I like her for being honest and gentle. I can't bear to see her fall into that state. If a woman jumped into that pit of fire, there would be no hope for her in this lifetime. Shi Fengju's eyes flickered. He knew that she was most likely thinking about him. He put his arm around her shoulder and said with a smile, Don't worry, I'm a man of my word. The next day, after Sangwon returned to Wang, she began to get busy with Shi Lian's marriage. She went to Shi Lian's place under the pretext of discussing the dowry and secretly reminded her. Shi Lian was already in despair and was waiting to die. Seeing that Sangwon didn't want to joke, she cheered up a little. She put away the gloomy expression on her face and continued to live her life as usual. Gu Fengzi had been asking Lan Xiang to inquire about it. She thought that there would be a big disturbance when Wang and the others returned from the Plum Blossom Temple that day. According to her plan, Sangwon and young Master Hong were entangled in the Plum Blossom Forest and alarmed Wang. After losing so much face, Wang definitely wouldn't forgive her. Grounding her would be the lightest punishment. Who would have thought that on that day, everyone returned as if nothing had happened? Gu Fengzi didn't believe Lan Xiang's inquiry at first, but when she saw that Lan Xiang didn't seem to be lying, she thought, it must be my aunt who wanted to save face and suppress this matter. Gu Fengzi couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. She thought, my aunt is so tolerant. But even if this matter was suppressed, Wang should have found another reason to punish Sangwon severely. Unexpectedly, there was no reaction at all. Until today, everyone in the residence knew that the third miss was going to be the concubine of the Zhizhou's son, and would marry him on the 16th of this month. Gu Fengzi thought about it and realized that something had gone wrong. Young Master Hong probably didn't meet Sangwon, but met Shi Lian. Gu Fengzi felt that it was very boring, so she didn't care about this matter and closed her door to recuperate. Shi Lian could marry whoever she wanted. She didn't have the slightest interest in being a wife or a concubine. It was impossible for her to feel guilty because of this. In her eyes, this wasn't a problem at all. Wang saw that Shi Lian didn't have the slightest bit of dissatisfaction, and thought that she was very willing. The little bit of guilt in her heart disappeared without a trace. She felt more and more that she had found a good marriage for her. Thus, she happily waited for the auspicious day to send her off. Unexpectedly, nothing happened on Shi Lian's side, but Shi Yumei's side stirred up trouble. Ren Jixian wanted to move back to Mengxian, and refused to stay in the Shi household anymore. He made a fuss in front of Wang. Ever since they were instigated by Cui Bao, Ren Jixian and Cui Bao had set their eyes on the furnishings in Banana Courtyard. As long as it wasn't too big and difficult to carry, the two of them would find an opportunity to sneakily move the things out bit by bit, and leave them in an inn. Incense burners, spices, brushes, ink, paper, inkstone, brush holder, paperweight, flower vases, flower pots, jade chimes, gold, silver and jade ornaments, silk and even embroidered tablecloths and chairs, small bonsai pieces, exquisite bowls and plates and so on. The first place the two of them started was the study, followed by the other rooms in Banana Courtyard, and finally Shi Yumei's living quarters. At first, Shi Yumei didn't notice. Later on, her favorite red sandalwood Buddha's hand that was placed on the long table in the living room also disappeared. She couldn't help but ask Chuizhu about it. In fact, who in Banana Courtyard didn't know about Ren Jixian and Cui Bao's actions? The maids and old women were laughing so hard that their bellies almost burst from talking behind their backs. But which servant would be willing to talk about their master's matters? Even if they saw it, they would just pretend not to see it. Even Cui Zhu had the same thought. When Cui Zhu heard the question, she secretly groaned and stuttered. Sure, Yu Mei became more and more suspicious. Did you keep it? Or did you accidentally break it? Tell me quickly, don't hide it from me. Cui Zhu had no choice but to kneel down and reply. Master took it the day before yesterday. Sure, Yu Mei frowned and thought that Ren Jixian had taken it to play with. Although she wasn't happy, she didn't do anything. During the meal, she only mentioned that the white jade Buddha hand was a precious gift from her mother, and told him to be careful not to damage it. It was just a reminder. Who knew that Ren Jixian would deny it after hearing it? What white jade Buddha's hand? I've never seen it before. Sure, Yu Mei widened her eyes and said, That's strange. Cui Zhu said that you were the one who took it, so why are you still pretending? Otherwise, why didn't you see the white jade Buddha's hand on the long table in front of the window? Ren Jixian slammed the table and said with a dark face, Cui Zhu, you said that you saw me take it with your own eyes? Your thing is missing and you're asking me, how would I know? Cui Zhu was so scared that her legs went soft and her face turned pale. She was speechless for a moment. Sure, Yu Mei knew that Cui Zhu had always been honest and wouldn't lie to her. Seeing that her husband dared to deny it in front of her, she was furious and the two couldn't help but curse at each other. Sure, Yu Mei angrily rushed into Ren Jixian's study room and wanted to find the white jade Buddha's hand. Who knew that she couldn't find the white jade Buddha's hand, but she felt that something was wrong with the study room. After looking around a few times, she cried out in alarm and shouted, Where did all the furnishings go? Where are the pair of copper bull paperweights, the phoenix piercing flower jade annulus, the 100-flower statue, the green glazed plum blossom vase, the green jade rui, the white jade lotus leaf sculpture, the coral candlestick, and the golden incense burner? Chapter 206. Ren Jixian flew into a rage when he saw her rushing in aggressively to search for the items, and even questioning him arrogantly. How would I know? It must have been taken by someone who didn't have eyes when cleaning up the house. Sure, Yu Mei sneered. Wasn't Bao the one cleaning up the house? Then it must have been taken by her? Cui Bao's heart was in a state of panic. Hearing this, she was so frightened that her knees went soft and she knelt down. Madam, please forgive me. It's not this servant. It's not this servant. Don't talk nonsense without evidence. Ren Jixian gestured for Cui Bao to get up. He coughed and said to Sure Yu Mei, Perhaps your second brother is angry with me for asking someone to take it away. Forget it, I've wanted to say this to you for a long time. It's better for me to say it today. Since your family hates me so much, I don't want to stay in your house anymore. Pack up, we'll go back to Mengxian in 2 days. What did you say? Sure, Yu Mei threw away her thoughts of searching for the items she lost and said in disbelief, Go back? There won't even be a place to stand when we go back. Have you thought about where to stay? When did my mother and Fengju mistreat us? Why are you maligning them? Ren Jixian sneered. Of course they treat you well, but I'm the one they hate. Ren Jixian, have some pride. I won't wait for them to chase me away. I'll leave on my own. You're my wife, so you have to follow me wherever I go. I have many friends in Mengxian. We'll stay in any house for a while and slowly find a suitable one to rent a house. Even if I freeze or starve to death, I don't want to continue being treated like this. I think you're crazy. Sure, Yu Mei was so angry that her body trembled. She lived a luxurious life in her family, so why would she be willing to go back to Mengxian to suffer? But she was the wife of the man in front of her. If he wanted to leave, she had to follow him. You're the crazy one. Wake up, this is the Sure household, not the Ren household. We have to go back sooner or later. In short, I've made up my mind. I must leave. Tomorrow. Go and tell your mother that we will leave in 2 days. Ren Jixian said resolutely and decisively. Sure, Yu Mei was anxious. She really didn't want to leave. How good was it to live in this manner? She didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of by her mother and brothers. It hadn't even been half a year since she had enjoyed this carefree and comfortable life. And now she was going to return to the chaos of the past? Sure, Yume humbled herself and begged Ren Jixian. She also told him that staying here would be beneficial for him. But how could Ren Jixian listen to her? On New Year's Eve, he would never forget the bucket of cold water that was poured on his head. Furthermore, the servants in this courtyard, after suffering that day, did not have the slightest bit of respect for him. Instead, they faintly revealed contempt. Ren Jixian was extremely angry, but there was nothing he could do. With Cui Bao's incitement, of course, he was willing to go to Mengxian to enjoy himself. If you want me to stay, that's fine. Ren Jixian listened to Shi Yume's incessant nagging and sneered. Ask your second brother to kowtow and serve me tea as an apology, then I'll forgive him. That matter will be considered over. I'll also stay so that you can continue to be filial to your mother. How about that? Shi Yume was dumbfounded and her heart was filled with anger. Let's not talk about this first. She couldn't possibly ask Shi Fengjiu. How could she let her brother suffer such grievances? Even if she asked, with Shi Fengjiu's personality, there was no way he would agree. You have nothing else to say. Ren Jixian snorted and said. If you have nothing else to say, then do as I say. Don't forget to tell your mother tomorrow. Shi Yume's body turned cold. She gritted her teeth and said. As you wish. I was meddlesome. I shouldn't have come back and caused trouble for my mother and Fengjiu. There was no need to wait until tomorrow. On the same day, Shi Yume told Wang that she wanted to return to Mengxian. Wang didn't find it strange and asked why. Shi Yume naturally wouldn't say that it was her husband who instigated her to do so. She only said that Mengxian was her husband's home, and that it was time for her to go back after being away for so long. Although Wang usually didn't manage the household affairs and didn't think much, she wasn't a fool who could be easily fooled. Her daughter's words were too far-fetched. Seeing that Shi Yume's expression wasn't right, she began to interrogate her. At first, she thought that Shi Yume had heard some gossip and was wronged. She wanted to summon Sang Wan and order her to find out which servant dared to gossip behind her back. Naturally, this matter couldn't be concealed. Shi Yume had no choice but to tell her mother about Ren Jixian's request to return. Although she didn't tell her mother about his shameless words, her eyes couldn't help but redden as she thought about it. Wang saw her daughter's expression of reluctance, but her attitude was firm. She knew that it definitely had something to do with that good son-in-law of hers, and her teeth itched with hatred. Her daughter didn't say a single word about him, leaving her with no place to vent her anger. Since that's the case, let's wait for Fengjiu to return. Wang could only sigh. That day, when Shi Fengjiu returned to the household, Wang sent someone to call him over. Hearing that his sister insisted on leaving, Shi Fengjiu said without thinking, it must be because brother-in-law doesn't feel comfortable staying in our household, right? Since he insists, it's fine too. Pack your things. I'll have someone send you back. Shi Yume was stunned and felt a little disappointed. She forced a smile and thanked him. Wang was unhappy and complained to Shi Fengjiu. How can you say that? Does it mean that you only have eyes for your wife and can't see anyone else? Shi Fengjiu smiled and said, Mother, brother-in-law insists on leaving. I'm sure big sister has already tried to persuade him, but to no avail. What do you want me to say? Don't tell me I have to kneel down and beg him to stay. Wang snorted and said, Easy for you to say. They have no income in Mengxian, no property, and no place to stay. How are they going to survive when they return? Shi Yume was also worried about this. She couldn't help but look at Shi Fengjiu. That's not easy. After listening to Wang and Big Sister's words, Shi Fengjiu could roughly guess Ren Jixian's thoughts. He casually said, I'll ask the housekeeper to accompany us. We'll buy a house with 2 courtyards to live in. Brother-in-law, just focus on your studies. Every month, I'll ask someone to send some money to you for your living expenses. Big sister, what do you think? Second brother, thank you so much. Shi Yume felt as if a huge rock had been lifted from her heart. She was immediately overjoyed. Wang was also relieved. She put her palms together and sighed. That's great. Sigh, I hope he can study hard when he returns and stop wasting his time on wine and women. Shi Fengjiu smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Sure Yume, however, froze. Your third sister will be married in a few days. Why don't you stay for a few more days? It won't be too late to leave after she's married, Wang said. Sure Yume said. Third sister will be married as a concubine. There's nothing to be excited about. It doesn't matter if we wait or not. I'm afraid my master can't wait. We should return as soon as possible. Wang saw her insistence and didn't say anything else. Shi Fengju suddenly thought of Sang Wan's concern for Shi Lian, and felt a chill in his heart. Ren Jixian was secretly happy when he heard Shi Yume's reply. He felt that Sui Bao's idea was great. The Shi family wouldn't ignore Shi Yume's life and death. Didn't they already have a house and income? Thinking of the coming days of indulging in wine and women, and being flattered by everyone, Ren Jixian's face was full of smiles. He couldn't wait to return to Mengxian. When the couple came, they only brought a small bag. When they left, they had a lot of luggage. Clothes, shoes, rouge, face powder, and other things naturally had to be taken away. Wang felt sorry for her daughter and gave her a lot of high-quality clothes, jewelry, accessories, ornaments, bird's nest, white fungus, ginseng, and so on. The next day, 2 big boxes were packed and sent over by Nanny Jiang. Shi Yume was packing her clothes, shoes, socks, and other things with Cuizhu and the other 2 maidservants. When she saw Nanny Jiang's things, she quickly accepted and thanked her mother. She said that she would thank her mother later. Just as Nanny Jiang left, Ren Jixian rushed in again. He glanced at the 2 boxes on the ground and didn't say anything. Anyway, even Shi Yume herself was his, let alone 2 boxes of things. It wouldn't be too late to take a closer look at them when they returned to Mengxian. He came here because he had something to ask her. What is it? Say it. Shi Yume's face didn't look too good as she said coldly. Ren Jixian pulled her to the side and asked, Your second brother said that he would buy a house for us. Did he say where he would buy it? How big is it? Are all the furniture in the room ready? Also, how much did he say for the monthly living expenses? You just want to ask this? Shi Yume was so angry that she felt dizzy. Yes. Ren Jixian was not afraid of itching anymore. His face didn't turn red and his heart didn't skip a beat as he said, Isn't this all for your sake? It doesn't matter if I'm a man or if not, I can just stay at a friend's house. But you're different. You're the young mistress of the Shi family. How can you suffer? Isn't it for your own good to find a good house with everything? Besides, you're the daughter of the Shi family. You should have a share of the Shi family's assets. This little request isn't too much, right? Get out. Shi Yume said hatefully. Don't you want to know? You can ask my second brother yourself. You don't believe him, but I do. He won't treat me unfairly as his sister. I'll only listen to his arrangements for everything. If you're dissatisfied, please do as you wish. Ren Jixian sneered. You don't know how to appreciate my kindness. After saying that, he left. After packing for 2 days, Shi Fengju ordered head servant Yu to bring 2 servants to personally send the 2 of them, Cuizhu and Sui Bao, back to Mengxian. When they were about to leave, Wang and Shi Yume held hands and cried for a while. Gu Fangzi was still sick, so she sent Lan Xiang to send them off. Gu Fangzi felt that it was a pity. With Shi Yume leaving, she would have one less helper. However, it wasn't up to her to comment on this matter. It was just a thought. The group entered Mengxian. Head servant Yu was familiar with the roads, and ordered the coachman to stop at the end of Tianshui Alley in the east of the county. The servant jumped down to unlock the door, and drove the carriage in from the side door. It was a courtyard house with 2 entrances. There was a back seat, an east and west wing, and an east and west wing. There were about 20 rooms, enough for the 4 of them to live in. The furniture has been prepared and the kitchen maid has been hired. It's a couple. The man can take care of the courtyard and clean it. He can start work tomorrow. Eldest Missy and eldest young master, please come in. Old slave, you will ask the servants to bring the boxes in. Chapter 207. The courtyard was clean and tidy with white walls, freshly painted doors and windows, and even the curtains were new. There were also 2 pomegranate and magnolia trees planted in the courtyard. It was quite lively. However, it could not be compared to Banana Courtyard, let alone the grand pavilions of the Shi family. As soon as they got off the carriage, Ren Jixian raised his eyebrows in dissatisfaction. In his eyes, this courtyard was small and tasteless. How could they live in it? Shi Yumei was also slightly disappointed. They were only relying on the help of her family, so this was considered acceptable. Naturally, this place could not be compared to the Shi family's residence, but it was not worse than the wealthy families in Mengxian. When they entered the house, the furniture was neatly prepared. Shi Yumei was happy again and directed Cuizhu and the others to move things in and out. Head servant Yu. Is this the place that your young master arranged? Is there nothing else? Yumei is used to living in comfort, so I'm afraid she won't be used to living here. Ren Jixian called head servant Yu over and asked. This place is quiet, and the people living nearby are all good people. It's suitable for young master to work hard. It's more than enough for you and eldest Missy to live here with a few servants. Young master said that if you are not satisfied, you can find another place in the future. Head servant Yu said with a smile. How could Ren Jixian have the ability to prepare this place himself? Hearing this, he pulled a long face and snorted without saying anything. Then he asked, what about this month's living expenses? Did you bring it? Head servant Yu said, it's all handed over to eldest Missy. He smiled faintly and said, you are a scholar. Old slave was afraid that the smell of money would make you unhappy. Ren Jixian's face turned even uglier, but there was nothing he could do. He stomped his foot and said, forget it, leave the things in the courtyard. You can go back and report. Wait, where is the deed for this house? Did you hand it over to eldest Missy too? Deed. Head servant Yu said blankly. Old slave doesn't have a deed. This house was bought with the public's money, so the deed is naturally kept in the public's hands. However, eldest young master said that you and eldest Missy can rest assured. Ren Jixian finally jumped up. So this house belongs to the Shi family? Since it was bought with the public money, it naturally belongs to the Shi family. Head steward Yu still maintained a forced smile on his face, but he was full of disdain in his heart. He thought to himself, how can you ask such a question? You're still a scholar, but you're shameless to this extent. You can be considered a genius. Ren Jixian couldn't help but become angry. His face turned green and then white. He wanted to point at housekeeper Yu's nose and curse at him. Then he would take his wife and concubines and leave. Unfortunately, a single copper coin would suffocate a hero to death. Although he had the thought, he did not have the guts to do so. If there's nothing else, this old slave will take his leave. It's getting late, and the old slave still has to rush back to report to the eldest young master. Housekeeper Yu slightly bowed as he spoke. Scram! Ren Jixian squeezed out a word from between his teeth. He had finally vented his anger. Housekeeper Yu smiled and didn't care about his attitude at all. He went in to bid farewell to Shi Yumei, and left in a hurry with the two servants and the coachman. As soon as they left, Ren Jixian rushed in front of Shi Yumei and asked her where her living expenses were. What are you doing? Shi Yumei immediately became alert and said, this is our family's allowance. Don't you dare take it out to fool around. I'm asking you how much you have. Ren Jixian was impatient. Shi Yumei said unhappily, 100 taels. Only 100 taels. Ren Jixian sneered. Is your Shi family only an empty shell now? A dignified eldest Missy is only willing to give you 100 taels a month. It wasn't even enough to eat a good meal outside. Shi Yumei also sneered. It's a pity that I'm not only the eldest Missy of the Shi family, but also the daughter-in-law of the Ren family. What about you? How much did you hand over to me? Ren Jixian stared at her coldly and snorted, saying that he was tired and wanted to rest. He dragged Suibao away to serve him and left Shi Yumei and her servant to continue cleaning up. Shi Yumei was so angry that she kept scolding. Cuizhu hurriedly tried to persuade her with a smile. Ren Jixian didn't expect that not only did his family not have any room to live, even the restaurants and shops in Mengxian County had become stingy. None of them were willing to give him credit. Ren Jixian didn't understand at first, but on second thought, he guessed that it must be Shi Fengju's doing. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed and angry. Furthermore, he had lost face in front of his friends. Every day, he would quarrel with Shi Yumei, turning the world upside down. There wasn't a single day of peace. Housekeeper Yu reported to Shi Fengju everything that happened in Mengxian County, without missing a word. Shi Fengju didn't mind and only smiled faintly, ordering him to leave. At that moment, the storekeeper came to report that many of the decorations and furnishings in Banana Courtyard were missing. They couldn't be accounted for in the warehouse. Shi Fengju didn't need to think to know that his brother-in-law must have stolen it. He said, "Just write a list. Don't forget to mark it on the booklet. Just say that it's missing." The storekeeper was also well aware of the situation, and quickly left with a smile. Shi Fengju couldn't help but sigh. He thought about his brother-in-law. When he returned to Mengxian County and found out that he couldn't enjoy himself because of him, he wondered how angry he would be. He didn't care about anything else. He just didn't want to vent his anger on his eldest sister. The Fu was still preparing for Shi Lian's wedding. Because she was going to be a concubine, the things she needed to prepare were limited. There weren't any signs of celebration in the Fu. It was a far cry from when Shi Yumei got married. Unexpectedly, at the crack of dawn, Shi Fengju and Sangwon were still sleeping in each other's arms. They were awakened by Mama Li's panicked pounding on the door. "Eldest young master. Eldest young mistress. Not good, not good. Third young mistress's Fuchu pavilion caught fire." "What? Caught fire?" Sangwon was shocked. The two of them hurriedly got dressed and got up. "How is third younger sister? Is the fire under control?" Shi Fengju's face was cold and solemn. "Why would there be a fire all of a sudden? Eldest young master, let's quickly go and take a look. Also, let's not disturb mother first. We don't want to scare her," Sangwon hurriedly said. Mama Li said, "I've already called people to put out the fire. It's hard to say how bad the fire is now. Some of third young mistress's hair was burned. I think she fainted because of the smoke. Right now, she's in the embroidered brocade pavilion. The old slave has already sent people to call for a doctor." Sangwon and Shi Fengju hurriedly wrapped themselves in cloaks and led people to the embroidered brocade pavilion. The fire was already under control. Only a small part of it was still burning. However, they could still see the thick smoke rising into the sky. The air was filled with a choking smell. Sangwon couldn't help but cover her mouth and cough. Shi Fengju hurriedly protected her and gently patted her back. He said softly, "Let's not go there. Let's go to the embroidered brocade pavilion." Sangwon nodded her head. A moment later, the doctor arrived and gave Shi Lian first aid. She finally regained consciousness. She seemed to have been scared to death. When she saw Shi Fengju and Sangwon, she burst into tears. Kai Yin also couldn't stop crying. Mama Li ordered people to take Kai Yin away to rest and called Hong Yi to serve her. Sangwon comforted Shi Lian and asked Shi Fengju to leave. She then asked people to change Shi Lian's clothes and wash her face. Only then did she discover that there was a large wound on her leg. The skin and flesh were all burned. She was afraid that it would leave a scar in the future. Mama Li and the others sighed. What happened? How could there be a fire all of a sudden? Someone had already run to tell Wang about it. Wang was shocked, angry, and anxious. She hurriedly put on her clothes and rushed over. "Mother." Shi Lian raised her head from the pillow in panic. She kowtowed to Wang and said, "Mother, it's all your daughter's fault. It's all your daughter's fault. I'm sorry for disturbing you. Where's Kai Yin? What's going on?" Wang saw that she was unharmed and became angry. "Mother." Shi Fengju came in from outside and supported her as he said, "Third sister is quite frightened. The physician has just given her some medicine to calm her nerves. Let's talk outside." As he spoke, he helped Wang Shi out. Sangwon nodded to Shi Lian and ordered people to take good care of her. She also followed them out. Shi Fengju had already asked about the cause. It turned out that Shi Lian had been copying Buddhist scriptures for a long time last night. When she went to sleep, she forgot to turn off the lights in the outer hall. The windows weren't closed tightly either. As a result, the wind blew over the oil lamp and set the tablecloth on fire, causing the fire. Let third sister live in Juejin house for the time being. Fortunately, she's fine. There's nothing important in the house. If it's gone, it's gone. When the weather gets warmer, I'll ask people to clean it up and rebuild it. Mother, don't take it to heart. Shi Fengju persuaded. Inf. Wang's face was cold. She couldn't help but say, "You're already an adult. How can you be so careless? You said that copying Buddhist scriptures would help me accumulate blessings. Look at what happened. You almost scared me half to death." "Mother, this was an accident. Who would have thought?" Shi Fengju laughed. Wang sighed and asked Sangwon, "What did the doctor say? Where was she hurt?" Sangwon said, "The doctor said that she was frightened and needed to rest for a while. Her hair was burned and there were a few blisters on her hands. But it's okay. It's just that on her left calf, there was a burn that was about half a foot long and half the size of a palm. It's quite serious. The doctor said that it might leave a scar." Preposterous. Wang slammed her hand on the table. This time, she was really angry. She complained, "Why did this have to happen at this time? That lass is really making me worry more and more. The Hong family is coming to pick her up in a few days. What should we do?" Shi Fengju and Sangwon looked at each other without saying a word. Wang sighed and complained to herself for a while. She frowned and said, "Fengju, what do you think we should do about this?" Shi Fengju sighed. "Mother, is there even a need to ask? How can third sister get into the bridal sedan in her current state? Don't tell me you want her to go to the Hong family to recuperate." Wang was speechless for a moment. According to Sangwon, her leg injury was so serious that it would take at least half a month to 20 days for her to recover. The Hong family's young master was taking in a concubine, not an ancestor. Why would he be willing to take someone back to recuperate? Moreover, her leg was injured like that. Would the young master still take a liking to her? "Forget it." Wang sighed and said, "I can't help but give up this old face of mine. When the sun rises, I'll get someone to break off this engagement. That lass can't blame anyone for her lack of fortune. That's the only way." Shi Fengju sighed. Chapter 208. "Mother, there's nothing else here. You should go back and rest for a while," Sangwon said. Wang didn't want to stay any longer. She nodded and instructed her to take care of the matter. She also told her that there was no need to pay respects today. She then left with Nanny Jiang and Xiao Chun. "Young master, young mistress, you should also go back and rest for a while. The old slave is watching over here." After sending off Wang, Mama Li smiled at Shi Fengju and Sangwon. Shi Fengju didn't decline. He smiled and said, "Thank you, Nanny." Then he pulled Sangwon back. It was almost time for them to wake up. The husband and wife returned to their room and couldn't continue sleeping. They took off their outer clothes and wrapped themselves in the quilt as they lay on the bed to talk. Sangwon stared at Shi Fengju with her pair of clear and bright eyes. From time to time, she would blink and look at Shi Fengju with a strange expression. "Why are you looking at me? Are you scared silly by that fire? Don't you recognize your husband?" Shi Fengju smiled and pulled her into his embrace. With one hand, he scratched her smooth and perky nose. Sangwon bit her lip and smiled. "Tell me honestly, how did the fire at Futsu Pavilion start?" She didn't think much of it at first, but the more she thought about it, the more she felt it was strange. Although Shi Lian cried miserably, Sangwon felt that she was a little nervous and cried a little too much. Later, Wang angrily said that she wanted to cancel the engagement. Sangwon became even more suspicious. Shi Fengju didn't even raise his eyebrows when he heard her question. He smiled and said in her ear, "I knew I couldn't hide it from you. But look, hasn't the matter been resolved? The Hong family won't do this marriage again. After all, she was only a concubine and not a wife. It really was you." Sangwon was speechless. This person wasn't careless at all. He didn't even bat an eyelid when he set fire to his own house. Wasn't he worried that the fire couldn't be controlled? Then the wound on third sister's leg. "It's fake," Shi Fengju said faintly. "I've already told her that if mother doesn't cancel the engagement today, she'll pretend to be frightened and spout nonsense. When the time comes, we'll invite a master to take a look." Since the sorcerer was here, he naturally had to perform a divination to exorcise evil spirits. As for what he would say, it was all up to Shi Fengju. Saying that this marriage was inauspicious and that it couldn't be tied was just a small matter. Sangwon was completely speechless. She stared at Shi Fengju for a long time, unable to come back to her senses. Shi Fengju raised his chin as if he was asking for praise. He rubbed his chin against her face and said with a smile, "Isn't your husband very powerful?" Sangwon chuckled, nodded and praised, Impressive. Are you impressed?" "Impressive. You can't just say that you're impressed. You have to express it." Shi Fengju chuckled and moved closer to her. After daybreak, as expected, Wang Shi sent Nanny Jiang to the Hong family to report the situation. Madame Hong thought about how she was going to marry into the family in a few days, yet this kind of thing happened at this time. It could be seen that this girl was a jinx and inauspicious. She felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. When she heard that there was a scar on her leg, she became even less interested. When she saw that the Shi family had sent someone to cancel the engagement, it was exactly what she wanted. With a few words, the matter was settled. From then on, there was no mention of it. Hongxi didn't mind. He proved to his friends and servants that he didn't want this kind of unlucky girl with a disfigured face. It wasn't that he didn't want her, but that she wasn't worthy. No one dared to make fun of him in the first place. It was just that he felt that he had lost face. Naturally, they all flattered him. Hongxi was overjoyed and threw this matter aside. There were many beautiful women in Qingzhou City who were sensible and tactful. Which one of them wasn't better than that Shi Lian, who only knew how to cry and make a fuss? Shi Lian was greatly relieved when she learned that the engagement was cancelled. She held Sangwon's hand and choked with sobs. Sangwon comforted her for a while, and sighed in her heart. After this incident, it would be a long time before Wang Shi would bring up Sangwon's marriage again. She didn't know if it would hurt her in the future. It was almost time for Gu Fengzi's mourning period, but she was still bedridden in Peony Park. Sangwon deliberated for a long time. She took the opportunity to ask Wang for instructions on how to prepare. Wang thought for a while and said, "This is Feng'er's own matter. She should make her own decision. You should ask her. Whatever she wants, you can ask them to prepare accordingly." As she said that, she looked at Sangwon strangely and said, "Wanyang, Feng'er's temperament is good and she grew up by my side. If she leaves our family, my heart will feel a little empty. I feel that you get along well with her. Do you want her to stay?" Sangwon felt a little depressed. Of course she didn't want to, but she couldn't say it. "Mother, this matter is up to you and my husband. Wanyang has no objections." Wang said, "What if I insist on asking for your opinion?" Sangwon's face stiffened. She knew that she couldn't say anything in front of her mother-in-law. She could only go along with her and said with a smile, "Mother, you dote on my younger sister so much. Wanyang naturally hopes that she can stay by your side to serve you and please you." Wang's face revealed a smile and nodded. "That's true. This is how our Shi family's eldest daughter-in-law should be. Virtuous, sensible, and tolerant. Since you have such thoughts, find a chance to persuade Fengju not to let Feng'er leave. Don't worry, you entered the Shi family with 8 people carrying a palanquin. No one can snatch the position of Shi family's young mistress from you. Daughter-in-law understands." "Mother." Sangwon agreed with a smile and left. Sangwon felt a little heavy in her heart. Ever since she entered the Shi family, she had never been disrespectful to her mother-in-law, and had always served her respectfully. She always thought of her mother-in-law first. When she took care of the household, she didn't have any selfish motives and handled everything impartially. She didn't try to gain any benefits for herself. But why did her mother-in-law only see Gu Fengzi and not her at all? "Young mistress, you're here." Sangwon was deep in thought when a servant came out from the side. It was third aunt's servant, Nanny Goe. Sangwon returned to her senses and smiled. "Nanny Goe, you're looking for me. Our old mistress would like to invite young mistress over to have a seat. I wonder if young mistress is free," Nanny Goe said with a smile. Sangwon subconsciously raised her head to look at the flowers and trees in the distance. Unknowingly, it was already spring. Third aunt must be urging her to tidy up Qinghui Garden. She smiled and said, "Mother-in-law wants me to go to Peony Park to speak. Why don't I visit third aunt in the afternoon? I wonder if third aunt will be free? Our old mistress usually has nothing to do, so she'll naturally be free. Then, old slave will return to old mistress." Young mistress, don't forget about this afternoon, Nanny Gui said with a smile. Definitely. Sangwon nodded with a smile. Nanny Gui then bowed and took her leave. When she came to Peony Park to pass on Wang's message, Gu Fengzi did not hesitate. With a pale face, she said while panting, "Thank you for your concern, older sister. Although I feel a little weak and dizzy, it's nothing serious. When the day comes, I will naturally go to Guangling Temple to perform a ritual. I only hope that older sister can help me arrange it in advance. Of course, I've already instructed the Jean housekeeper to arrange it properly. Don't worry." Sangwon smiled. It was naturally inconvenient for her to personally arrange the matters outside. She could just leave it to the head housekeeper. Moreover, she still did not want to be involved with Gu Fengzi's matters. "Thank you, older sister." Gu Fengzi smiled slightly and looked at Sangwon with sparkling eyes. "I see that older sister has lost a lot of weight. It's no wonder. There are so many matters in the residence that older sister has to handle alone. How can you not be tired? When I recover and end my mourning period, I will definitely share older sister's burden. When that time comes, older sister will also be able to rest." Sangwon was instantly angered. However, she had always been well-mannered and would never lose her composure in front of Gu Fengzi. Her expression only changed slightly before returning to normal. She pretended that she did not hear Gu Fengzi's words and smiled faintly. "Younger sister, rest well. It's better to worry less when you're sick to recover faster." She smiled and instructed Lan Xiang to serve her well before leaving Peony Park. Not long after lunch, Sangwon went to Ji Chui Tower to meet third old mistress Shi. "Wan Yang is here. Come in and have a seat." Third old mistress Shi went forward with a smile. "Thank you, third aunt." Sangwon smiled and bowed as she followed in. During this period of time, Sangwon had ordered the servants to take care of Ji Chui Tower's daily needs. Third old mistress Shi was originally worried that she would be looked down upon when she returned to the residence, and became more sensitive. However, when she saw how Shi Fengju and Sangwon treated her and her sisters-in-law with sincerity and consideration, and how Sangwon treated her two sisters-in-law, her sensitivity gradually faded away. She increasingly felt that Sangwon was a good person and treated her more closely. After chatting for a while, Sangwon smiled and said, "Oh right, third aunt, our Qingzhou has the most rain in March and April every year. The continuous spring rain can go on for more than 10 days. The south wind is humid and sticky everywhere. These few days, Rizhang has been thinking that when the weather gets better in April, we will tidy up Qinghui Garden and invite third uncle and third aunt to move in before the 15th of August. What does third aunt think?" Third old mistress Shi smiled and said, "Actually, after living here for a long time, I feel that Ji Chui Tower is not bad. The rooms are spacious and bright, dry and comfortable. It can be seen that you put in a lot of effort when choosing this place. You don't have to be too anxious about Qinghui Garden. You can do whatever is convenient for you." Sangwon smiled and said, "Since third aunt has said so, I will remember it. Thank you, third aunt, for your understanding. We are a family, there's no need to be so courteous." Third old mistress Shi smiled and sighed. "Our family's old master really has good taste to pick such a good daughter-in-law for his eldest grandson. You put in so much effort for me, your aunt, and I'm not a blockhead, how can I not see it?" Nanny Gui also smiled and said, "Isn't that so, young mistress? Our old mistress is full of praises for you. You can't blame old mistress for praising you. Young mistress' way of doing things is really admirable. Look at what third aunt and mama are saying." Sangwon smiled and said, "You and third uncle have returned home. So as the younger generation, I have to be filial. Oh right, third aunt, I wonder why third aunt called me here today?" Chapter 209. Look at me. I was so engrossed in small talk that I almost forgot about the important matter. Third old mistress Shi slapped her forehead and smiled. "It's like this, I want to purchase some fertile land and 1 or 2 farmsteads. I wonder if Wan Yang has any connections?" Sangwon was startled. "Third aunt, you want to?" Third old mistress Shi sighed softly and said, "There's nothing to hide about this. Our Yuzhen is already engaged to old master's colleague, and we'll be married off to Chengdu in the middle of next year. As for Yulin, I've discussed it with third uncle, and we're thinking of finding a marriage for her near Qingzhou in the next 1 or 2 years. The two of us will eventually return to our roots in the future, and it doesn't feel good to not have our 2 daughters by our side. That's why I'm thinking of slowly purchasing some land now so that we can give it to Yulin as her dowry. I know that there are some in the family, but this is the thought of your third uncle and I as parents, and it's different from the families. Sangwon nodded and smiled. If that's the case, Wanyang will do her best. But I don't know much about what's going on outside. How about this, when Fengju returns, I'll discuss it with him or ask the housekeeper in the outer courtyard. They'll definitely know. Third old mistress sure had the same intention. She was not in charge of the household, so it was naturally inconvenient for her to ask the housekeeper in the outer courtyard. Hearing that, she said happily, "That's great. Third aunt will thank you in advance." It's just a matter of talking. Third aunt doesn't have to be so polite. After leaving Jichui Tower, Sangwon walked back slowly with her head lowered as if she was thinking about something. Third old mistress Shi's words had also touched her, causing her thoughts to run wild. She wondered if she should secretly buy some land for herself. Her days were smooth sailing, and everything was going well. But every time she was alone, she would feel panicky and uncertain for no reason. She was very clear that everything she had now came from Shi Fengju. What he gave her, she had it. Whenever he took it back, she would have nothing left. Thinking about Gu Fengzi's ambitious words today, Sangwon's mind became even more chaotic. Gu Fengzi was a special existence in the Shi family. Although she didn't know what happened between her and Shi Fengju that made Shi Fengju dislike her so much, with Wang around, Shi Fengju couldn't really do anything to Gu Fengzi. That woman was cunning and sinister. Who knew what other crazy things she would do? There was no such thing as being a thief for 1,000 years, but there was no such thing as guarding against a thief for 1,000 years. What if one day he accidentally fell into her trap? It wasn't impossible. What would he do if Shi Fengju got mad at him? Or even worse, what if they ended up divorcing each other? Taking advantage of the current situation, he bought some farmland as a precaution. If there was a day when he needed it, he would have something to rely on. He felt more confident in his heart. The more Sangwon thought about it, the more she made up her mind. She didn't intend to tell Shi Fengju that third old mistress sure wanted to buy land. She would ask the housekeeper in the outer courtyard to find out more about it. Shi Fengju came back in the evening. Seeing that Sangwon didn't seem to be in good spirits, he changed his clothes and pulled her into the warm room. He held her hand and asked with a smile, "What's wrong? You don't look well. Who caused trouble for you?" Sangwon shivered slightly. She felt that she didn't reveal anything, but this person saw through it with a single glance. In front of him, she was no different from an invisible person. Sangwon was never to skimp on her work or hide anything from her mother-in-law, regardless of whether she was willing or not. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to explain herself if she was unlucky in the future. She had to say it sooner or later. Since he asked, she didn't hide it from him. She took back her hand and sat down. She repeated her mother-in-law's words to him and said angrily, "Mother wants me to persuade you to let cousin stay. I've already told you. You can do as you see fit." Shi Fengju knew that it was most likely related to his mother. Hearing that, he did not get angry and sat down beside Sangwon with a smile. "Mother always says the same thing. If you've heard it, then forget it. Don't take it to heart." Seeing that Sangwon didn't say anything, Shi Fengju put his hand on her shoulder and forced her to lean against him. He caressed her face with his other hand and smiled. "What's wrong? Are you jealous?" Sangwon glared at him with hidden bitterness and said with some annoyance, "I don't know what you said to Mother. Mother won't do anything if she can't persuade you. Now that she's using me to order me around, how can I not listen to her words? If I can't persuade you, she'll be angry with me. But I don't want to persuade you." Shi Fengju frowned slightly. "I've underestimated cousin Sangwon. I didn't expect her to be so capable." He sneered. "I Shi Fengju hate being coerced. Even if she stays, I won't look at her for the rest of my life." Sangwon's head jumped, and she looked at Shi Fengju in a daze. He just said even if she stays. Was he still going to let her stay? Shi Fengju saw her looking at him, and was puzzled at first. But soon he understood and smiled. I was just saying it casually. Wan Yang, I won't let her stay in the household and cause trouble for us. If she refuses to leave the Shi family's door, I'll send her to the farmstead. Is she willing to go? You're thinking too simply. Shi Fengju sneered. Such a small matter can't stump me. Sangwon said. Anyway, I've already said what mother wanted me to say. You can deal with her yourself. Shi Fengju smiled. Of course. If mother resents you again, don't take it to heart, and even if it's for my sake, I'll let you deal with me when we return to Ning Garden. Sangwon giggled and shook her hand. Forget it, forget it. I don't dare to deal with you. If you take revenge on me later, I won't even have a place to cry. Shi Fengju smiled and whispered in her ear. How can I take revenge on you? You're so afraid, An? Sangwon blushed and pushed him away with a smile. Shi Fengju held her in his arms and rubbed his forehead against hers. He said in a low voice, Wan Yang, don't worry about these trivial matters. Your husband won't let you suffer. Sangwon gave a low hum and raised her eyes to meet his black eyes. Her heart fluttered. His face was so close that she couldn't help but raise her head slightly and kiss him on the cheek. Shi Fengju gave a low hum and held her head to kiss her lips. He pried open her lips and entangled his tongue with hers. On the 20th of the second month, Gu Fengzi took a carriage and brought a few servants to Guangling Temple to perform a ritual and return 3 days later. Gu Fengzi was wearing a plain white dress and her hairpins were all made of silver. With her pale face, she really looked like a mournful and filial daughter. When she was leaving, Wang saw that she didn't forget to perform a ritual for her late father even though she was sick. She couldn't help but feel pity for her. She held her hand and comforted her for a long time. After she left, she sighed to Sangwon. Feng is really a good girl with a kind heart. When Gu Jin was alive, he didn't even fulfill half of his responsibility as a father. It's not easy for a woman to do this. She was really a filial daughter. A person with such a temperament is more considerate when interacting with others. Wan Yang, don't you think so? How could Sangwon say no? She reluctantly smiled and nodded. Wang Shi glanced at her meaningfully and said with a smile, It's good that you think so too. You are sisters, you have to take care of her in the future. Sangwon smiled. Mother, little sister is so capable. I'm afraid she will take care of me more in the future. Wang didn't know what she meant and agreed with a smile. After sending Wang back, Sangwon went to Jichui Tower. At the same time, she told third old mistress Shi that there were a few plots of land for sale outside the city. If they bought them now, they could start farming this year. After listening to Sangwon's detailed explanation, third old mistress Shi was very touched. Sangwon then suggested that Nanny Gui and the land guard should go and take a look so that they would have an idea. She also suggested that Luya could accompany them. Third old mistress Shi also knew that seeing was believing. She praised Sangwon for her thoughtfulness, and agreed to let Nanny Gui and Luya go out to take a look the next day after breakfast. Sangwon took her leave and returned to Ning Garden. She called Luya over and gave her detailed instructions. Although Luya was a little confused as to why her young mistress wanted her to take a look at those plots of land, she had always listened to Sangwon and nodded in agreement. After ordering her to leave, Sangwon leaned on the couch and sighed. Looking at her mother-in-law's stance, she definitely wanted Gu Fengzi to stay. Needless to say, even Shi Fengju had to be wary of her. If he insisted, her mother-in-law wouldn't be able to do anything to him. No matter how unhappy she was, she would have to comply. However, if things really got to that stage, her mother-in-law would definitely vent her anger on her. Her days in the future would not be easy. Gu Fengzi had endured for so long. Once she regained her freedom, who knew what she would do? Even with Shi Fengju's protection, there was no guarantee that she wouldn't make any mistakes. Sangwon laughed at herself. Fortunately, eldest sister had returned to Mengxian. Otherwise, she would have to be on guard against even more. He was afraid that sooner or later, he would collapse from exhaustion on top of it. Young mistress, second young mistress's mother and sister-in-law are here. They are with first old mistress and second old mistress. First old mistress wants young mistress to meet them. Xingji suddenly said from behind the curtain. Second young mistress? Old Mistress Zhou and young Mistress Zhou are here? Sangwon stood up and asked Xingji to come in. She was surprised. That's right. Xingji lifted the curtain and came in with a smile. This servant will help young mistress change into a set of clothes and comb her hair before going over. It's strange that old Mistress Zhou and young Mistress Zhou are here, but our second young mistress isn't. Sangwon also felt that it was strange. She shook her head and ordered Xingji to change into a set of red satin gown with grape-like patterns, an orange-red pleated skirt, and a bright red coral hairpin embedded with pearls in her hair. She then brought Xingji and the rest over. Just as they arrived at the courtyard, they heard a commotion. Listening carefully, they could hear the voices of second old Mistress Shi and an unfamiliar old mistress. It should be old Mistress Zhou. There was also the persuasion of Wang and the nannies. It was noisy and lively. Sangwon stopped in her tracks and gave Xingji a look before quietly retreating. Chapter 210. Now that the place was bustling with noise, it was not good for her to barge in. Just now when she heard a few words, it sounded like they were talking about second young Mistress Zhou Jingyi. Sangwon stood at the corner of the courtyard and ordered Xingji to inquire about it. Xingji obeyed the order and came back in a moment, saying anxiously, "No wonder second young mistress did not come back with you. Old Mistress Zhou and young Mistress Zhou are here to help second young mistress and second young master get a divorce." What? Sangwon was shocked and sighed to herself. Zhou Jingyi was a lucky woman. Her husband was unreliable, but she had a good mother to support her. Sangwon had only seen second young master a few times in her previous life, and did not have much of an impression of him. However, this person treated his wife in such a manner. It could be seen that he was also unreliable. Old Mistress Zhou's prompt decision to ask for a divorce was bold and courageous, and she loved her daughter dearly. It was admirable and lamentable. From a personal point of view, Zhou Jingyi might as well get a clean divorce rather than being stuck in a dilemma. Otherwise, how would her days end? Thinking that she might not be able to see her again in the future, Sangwon could not help but feel a little melancholy. However, standing on the Shi family's side, this matter was difficult. Second young master had done such a shameful thing. If the daughter-in-law were to leave because of this, the Shi family's face would be lost. Mother-in-law and second aunt would definitely not allow such a thing to happen. No wonder there was a quarrel inside. Since old Mistress Zhou had already decided on a divorce, how could she be courteous with her words? Young mistress, there's a big quarrel inside now. I didn't expect old Mistress Zhou's mouth to be so sharp. That young Mistress Zhou is also not easy to deal with. Old Mistress Zhou and second Mistress Zhou really did not gain any advantage. At this time, young mistress shouldn't go in. Why don't we go back first? Xingji supported Sangwon and said with a smile. Sangwon thought for a while and nodded with a smile. I won't be of much help if I go in anyway. Forget it, let's go back first. Get someone to watch over here properly. If there's any news, quickly inform me. Xingji agreed and ordered a maid to stay behind to inquire about it. The little girl couldn't wait to watch the fun, so she hurriedly agreed with a smile. Unexpectedly, Sangwon had only taken a few steps when a slightly anxious voice called out "sister-in-law" from behind her, which shocked her. Sangwon turned around and saw a young married woman dressed in a yellow embroidered robe and a white silk dress hurriedly walking towards her with a servant. Who else could it be but Zhou Jingyi? Brother, sister-in-law. Sangwon was surprised and happy. She hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Why are you here?" Zhou Jingyi's face was slightly embarrassed as she said, "I heard that my mother and sister-in-law were here, so I hurried over." Sister-in-law? Are my mother and sister-in-law with my mother-in-law? They didn't say anything. When Sangwon saw Zhou Jingyi rushing over in such a hurry, she felt a little more confident in her heart. She led her to the flower bushes at the side and dismissed the servant who was following her. She laughed softly and said, "Aunt, sister-in-law and second aunt are with my mother-in-law at the moment. Don't worry, I think that they won't be able to come to a conclusion in such a short time. You should know why aunt is here, right?" Zhou Jingyi's eyes darkened. She lowered her eyes and sighed. She nodded gently and said, "Of course I know. I. Zhou Jini bit her lips and finally said, I never thought of divorcing Erlang, but my mother. Zhou Jini was a young daughter-in-law after all. She blushed slightly and said softly, Sister-in-law, I really didn't think of divorcing Erlang. As long as he comes back, no matter how long it takes, I'm willing to wait for him. On the night of their wedding night, when he had lifted her red veil, the handsome face that had greeted her eyes had been deeply imprinted in her heart. At that moment, her originally restless and wild thoughts miraculously calmed down. A faint sweetness and shyness spread from the tip of her heart. She rejoiced that the heavens had given her a perfect husband. It was destined that she would never be able to forget him in this lifetime. Although the situation later was a little unexpected, she was sad, but not in despair. This was because she knew that this was his home. His parents and brothers were here. He would come back sooner or later. What she needed to do was to wait for him quietly at the same spot, in case he didn't see her when he came back. As for that prostitute Su Qing, she didn't care about her at all. He would sooner or later disdain that kind of indecent woman. They weren't the same kind of people. Even if they got together because of a moment of novelty, it wouldn't last long. Sister-in-law. Sang-Wan sighed softly. She held Zhou Jini's hand and didn't know what to say. Since ancient times, it was better to persuade people to stay together than to persuade them to leave. Furthermore, she didn't have the intention to leave. Since you've made up your mind, let's go in and take a look. If Auntie and second aunt quarrel fiercely, you'll be the one to suffer in the future. Zhou Jinyi's expression changed. Sister-in-law, come in with me. She knew her mother's temper very well. Her mother-in-law was already resentful towards her. If the two of them fell out, her future days would be very difficult. Sang-Wan nodded and hurried to the main courtyard with Zhou Jinyi. Just as they entered the courtyard, they heard old Mistress Zhou and second old Mistress Zhou arguing. Don't think that your sure family can bully others just because you're rich and powerful. My daughter is at the age of a flower, but she's living as a widow in your family. She can't control her own son, and doesn't allow us to divorce. There's no such unreasonable person in this world. Don't be anxious. Isn't it easy to get the letter of divorce? When my son comes back, you don't have to say anything and hand it over. You married such a useless daughter-in-law, who can't even control her own husband. Instead of teaching your own daughter properly, you came to our house to make a scene. You still have the cheek. Who are you calling a scene? Your son eloped with a prostitute. Your family's upbringing is obvious. How dare you pick on my daughter's faults? Which of the 3 obedience and 4 virtues did my daughter do wrong? Say it, say it. If she's capable, my son wouldn't have left home until now. You still have the cheek to ask me. Pei, didn't you raise your son single-handedly? My daughter has only been married for a few days, and you're pushing all the blame to her? Do you think the Zhou family is easy to bully? If I knew that your son had an affair with a lowly prostitute, I wouldn't care even if you brought a mountain of gold and silver to my family, much less let my daughter marry into your family. Let me tell you, if you don't give me the letter of divorce today, I'll report you to the Yamen. Fine, go ahead and report me. Go ahead if you have the ability. Don't think that I don't dare. Sister-in-law, old Mistress Zhou, let's talk things out. Sit down and talk things out. Wang was getting dizzy from the quarrel, and almost couldn't take it anymore. How could old Mistress Zhou and second old Mistress Shi let it go? The more they quarreled, the angrier they got. Old Mistress Zhou was enraged by second old Mistress Shi, and immediately ordered her daughter-in-law to follow her to the Yamen. Zhou Jingyi panicked and quickly ran in. She held on to her mother's arm and shook her head with tears in her eyes. Mother, I beg of you. Why are you here? Old Mistress Zhou frowned and everyone in the house was stunned. You came at the right time. Let's go, we'll go to the Yamen now. I want to see if the prefectural magistrate is reasonable. Old Mistress Zhou took the opportunity to pull Zhou Jingyi away. Mother, I beg of you, please give your daughter some face. Zhou Jingyi was so anxious that tears rolled down her cheeks. She knelt beside old Mistress Zhou and begged her. Old Mistress Zhou took in a breath of cold air and said sternly with her eyes wide open, "You're not willing? Are you not willing?" Zhou Jingyi did not say a word and lowered her head in tears. This was equivalent to admitting to it, And old Mistress Zhou felt that she had lost a lot of face. She flung her sleeves away in embarrassment and stomped her feet angrily. You unfilial daughter, are you trying to anger me to death? The Shi family humiliated you, and you still want to stay and be humiliated by others. Our Zhou family does not have such a spineless daughter like you. Second old Mistress Shi was delighted and sneered. In-law, don't say that. Jingyi is sensible. She knows that entering the yamen is not something to be proud of. Sister-in-law. Wang frowned and shouted. Second old Mistress Shi turned her face away, and did not say anything else. Old Mistress Zhou glared at second old Mistress Shi, but could not find any words to refute her. Her own daughter slapped her face in front of everyone. What could she do? Forget it, forget it. I've worried for nothing. From today onwards, it doesn't matter if you live or die. I'll take it that I don't have a daughter like you. Daughter-in-law, let's go. Mother. Zhou Jingyi was ashamed and guilty. She went forward on her knees and hugged old Mistress Zhou's leg as she cried. What are you crying for? You still have the cheek to cry. The Shi family is so good. You can stay if you want to, but I'm afraid of dirtying my feet. Let go of me. Old Mistress Zhou was furious. Lu Shi could not help but complain. On one side was her mother-in-law, and on the other was her sister-in-law. She could not afford to offend either of them. One wrong word would bring trouble to herself. Thus, she tried her best to persuade her mother-in-law but did not know how to do so. All she could do was to say, Mother-in-law, please calm down. Wang Shi got up and Sangwon hurriedly went forward to help her up. Wang Shi smiled and advised, Old mistress, if there's anything, let's discuss it properly. My nephew is still young and immature. When he comes to his senses, he will come back sooner or later. Why must old mistress separate the two of them? The Zhou family is also a reputable family. It won't be good if news of your daughter's separation spreads. Old Mistress Zhou coldly said, What if your nephew never comes back? Will my daughter be a widow for the rest of her life? Humph. Doesn't your Shi family have businesses all over the world? You've been looking for him for 2 to 3 years, and he's still nowhere to be found. Who knows how he is now? We, the Zhou family, would rather lose our face than let our daughter suffer for the rest of her life. Wang Shi was instantly speechless, and second old Mistress Shi was also enraged. Just as she was about to retort, she glanced at her sister-in-law, and kept quiet with a gloomy face. Sangwon leaned over to help Zhou Jingyi up. The clever maidservant at the side quickly came forward to help. Sangwon smiled and said, In-law, my sister-in-law can't bear to part with our second young master. It can be seen that he must have treated her well when he was around. Second young master was just muddle-headed for a moment. This is his home, he will come back sooner or later. In-law, why don't you wait patiently? If you divorce today and he comes back tomorrow, wouldn't it be a waste of time for them? Chapter 211. Old Mistress Zhou sized up Sangwon. Hearing her daughter holding her hand and calling her sister-in-law, she said, Are you the young mistress of the Shi family? Our Jingyi is just a simple-minded and clumsy person. If she had half of your skills and thoughts, she wouldn't have ended up like this. Wait. It's fine for a man to indulge in debauchery, but a woman's prime is fleeting. She can still wait for a few more years. Old Mistress Zhou was referring to how Sangwon snatched Shi Fengju away from Gu Fengzi not long after her marriage. Many people in the hall understood what she meant, and their expressions turned a little strange. Sangwon also felt a little embarrassed, but pretended not to know and said with a smile, No matter how many years pass, sister-in-law will always be second young master's legal wife. No one can surpass her. For the past 2 years, the Shi family has been looking for second young master, and has not slacked off. Auntie-in-law, please be more patient. There will definitely be results. That's right, old Mistress Zhou. The couple is not heartless. Wouldn't it be a pity to break them up like this? My nephew was just muddle-headed for a moment. After learning this lesson, he will definitely not do it again. By then, wouldn't it be better for the two of them to live a good life? If you bring your daughter home now, those who don't know will think that your daughter is lacking in virtue. If her reputation is ruined, how can she have a good marriage in the future? My words are not pleasant to hear, But think about it, isn't it reasonable? Wang also smiled. Old Mistress Zhou was so angry that her eyes widened again. After thinking about it carefully, she had to admit that Wang was right. If a man fooled around outside, he would be called romantic and elegant. If a woman was not serious, she would be called fickle. Although Shi Fengming was in the wrong in this matter, in the eyes of the world, it was just a harmless romantic affair. Her daughter had only been married for 2 years. If she really divorced and returned home, what Wang Shi said was very likely to happen. There would definitely be people who would say that she was a young woman who couldn't bear the loneliness, or missing a man and so on. If a pure and innocent daughter was tainted with such rumors, her future would be ruined. Looking at her daughter's teary eyes and pitiful pleading, Madame Zhou sighed in her heart. Even so, we can't just wait endlessly. My daughter can't possibly be a widow for the rest of her life. Madame Zhou snorted coldly. Second old mistress sure could not take it anymore and asked angrily. What do you mean? Are you cursing my son? Sister-in-law, madam, let's sit down and discuss this slowly. Calm down, calm down. No matter how much you quarrel, you won't be able to make a difference, right? Wang hurriedly interrupted. Sangwan signaled with her eyes and Xingji, Xiuchun, and the others hurriedly came forward to help the two madams to their seats. Sangwan also helped Wang to sit down and stood behind her. Lu Shi and Zhou Jingyi stood behind Zhou Foran. My daughter will wait for another year. If your second young master doesn't come back in a year, first madam, I'll have to trouble you to make the decision and send my daughter back to her parents' home. Old Mistress Zhou's eyes reddened and she wiped her tears. I'm not an unreasonable person. We're all parents. Who doesn't want their children to live well? But I can't just watch my daughter suffer like this. She's a pure and innocent girl. What wrong did she do? You. Second old mistress sure was about to speak when Wang glared at her. Wang thought for a while and said, 1 year is a little short. How about 3 years? If my nephew doesn't come back in 3 years, I'll send Jingyi back to her parents' home. There was a particular way to send her back to her parents' home. If the in-laws took the initiative to send her back, it would mean that the in-laws were magnanimous and did not want to waste their daughter-in-law's youth. The daughter-in-law would cry and beg to stay. Even if the in-laws tried to persuade her, the daughter-in-law would return home with tears in her eyes. This way she would not be criticized by others. This was what old Mistress Zhou meant when she requested for the Shi family to send her daughter back. 3 years is so long. Old Mistress Zhou frowned slightly. Isn't that a little too long? Her daughter was now 18 and would be 21 in 3 years. Of course, she would not be able to get married immediately. She would have to wait for at least another 2 to 3 years, right? By then, she would really be an old lady. If my in-law is unwilling, you can take your daughter back now. Second old mistress sure sneered. You. I still think 3 years is too short. But since my sister-in-law has spoken, I can't say anything. If you're unwilling, you can take her away now. My son can't find a good daughter-in-law. Second old mistress sure was also filled with anger. Preposterous. It seems like you don't want to talk nicely. Old Mistress Zhou was furious. You're the one who's being unreasonable. Second old mistress sure refused to be outdone. All right. Don't be rash, don't be rash. If you continue arguing, there won't be a conclusion even if the sky turns dark. When Wang Shi heard that the two of them were arguing, she felt a headache coming on. However, when she saw a little girl sticking her head out of the door and looking inside, she couldn't help but get angry. She slammed the tea table and said sternly, "What are you doing sneaking around there? How can the masters speak so unruly like you? Nanny Jiang, take her away and teach her a lesson later. The more relaxed the household is, the more unruly they become." Her bright eyes swept across second old mistress Shi and Madame Zhou before smiling. Mother, second aunt, Madame Zhou, Wan Yang has great news to tell you. Young master said that he has news of second young master. What? Really? The 3 old mistresses were stunned for a moment, before they all became happy. Good. That's great. Where's Fengjiu? Quickly call him in. I want to ask him properly. Second old mistress sure could not wait. Madame Zhou immediately calmed down after a moment of shock. She raised her eyebrows suspiciously. Could it be that your family colluded to fool us? What do you mean? Are you hoping that my son won't come back? Second old mistress, sure suddenly jumped up. Madame Jo was not to be outdone. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental? But I came today, and all of you said that you have news of him. If this isn't a trap, then what is it? Mother. Zhou Jingyi saw that her mother-in-law's face was so dark that she looked like she was about to pounce on her mother to fight. She hurriedly said, Mother, Big Brother isn't such a person. Besides, he didn't know that we were coming today, so why would he collude with us? Besides, what's the point of colluding with us? Mother, why don't we call Big Brother in and ask him about it? Yes, Jingyi is right. Xiao-chun, quickly call Fengjiu in. Wang hurriedly said. Sangwon smiled and said, Madame Zhou and sister-in-law must be tired. Mother, why don't your daughter-in-law accompany them to the warm room? Wang thought about it and agreed. Lu Shi was the daughter-in-law of the Zhou family, so it was inconvenient for her to be there. She nodded and said with a smile, Leave this matter to the adults. Please come in and have a seat. Sangwon acknowledged and led Lu Shi and Zhou Jingyi in. Lu Shi smiled gratefully at Sangwon. Zhou Jingyi actually wanted to stay behind to listen to the news, but it was inconvenient to leave her sister-in-law behind, so she could only follow them in. The moment Shi Fengjiu entered, second old mistress sure couldn't wait to ask, Fengjiu, is there really news of your second brother? Where is he now? Is he doing well? Before she could finish, her voice was choked with sobs. Shi Fengjiu hurriedly said, Second aunt, don't worry. Since there's news, second brother must be fine. Old Mistress Zhou snorted. I wonder where he is now. When will he be back? This was also the question that second old mistress Shi was most concerned about. She stared at Shi Fengjiu nervously. Shi Fengjiu said, A business friend of mine met him in Dezhou a month ago. I rushed back as soon as I received the news. Second aunt, old Mistress Zhou, don't worry. I will send someone to Dezhou tomorrow to find second brother and bring him back safely. Good. Second old mistress Shi nodded. Chapter 212. But old Mistress Zhou said, It's best if you can bring him back. After all, it was a month ago. Hopefully it won't be a waste of effort. What are you saying? What good will it do you if my son doesn't come back? Second old mistress Shi was furious. Second aunt, old Mistress Zhou, don't worry. Shi Fengjiu quickly said, since second brother appeared in Dezhou. Even if he left, we will definitely be able to find out where he went. Fengjiu, second aunt is counting on you. Even if you have to tie him up, you have to bring him back. Second old mistress Shi cried. Shi Fengjiu and Wang quickly comforted her. Old Mistress Shi, since there is news of my nephew, shouldn't we put this matter aside for now? Won't everything be solved once we find them? Wang Shi hurriedly said. Old Mistress Zhou's heart was in a mess, and second old mistress Shi was even more restless. How could she be in the mood to reason with her? She sighed. Fine, then I'll wait for your news. It's getting late, we should take our leave. You mother-in-law and daughter-in-law can go back, but my daughter-in-law has to stay. Second old mistress Shi quickly said. No. Old Mistress Zhou said coldly. I have to bring my daughter away. When your son comes back, tell him to pick her up personally. It's good to go back first. Wang said, sister-in-law, Jingyi came in a hurry today and didn't tidy up the house. Let her go back and accompany old Mistress Shi for a few more days. When Fengming comes back, she will naturally come back too. Second old Mistress Shi snorted. Since sister-in-law has already spoken, what else can I say? Too lazy to send her off, she got up and said plainly, I'm a little tired, sister-in-law. I'll take my leave first. Fengjiu, come with second aunt. Second aunt has something to ask you. Shi Fengjiu glanced at Wang before bowing to old Mistress Zhou and leaving with second old Mistress Shi. Wang saw that old Mistress Zhou's expression changed and was about to flare up again, so she quickly smiled and said, My sister-in-law is an impatient person. She must be anxious to tell her husband about this. It's a pity that the two of them have been on tenterhooks for 2 years. Now that there's finally news, they can be happy. Madam, please don't take it to heart. Why don't you stay in our residence for the night? It won't be too late to return tomorrow. Only then did Madame Zhou's complexion turn for the better. She shook her head and said, "There's no need. If we stay, we will only add to the chaos. Hopefully, we can find young master as soon as possible so that I can be at ease." "Exactly. Madam, you're right." Wang secretly sighed in relief when she heard Mrs. Zhou's words. Speaking of which, it was quite tiring for her to deal with such a powerful person. Seeing this, Mama Jiang went into the warm room to summon Sangwan and the others. The three of them came out and said goodbye to each other. Wang walked them to the entrance of the main courtyard, and Sangwan personally walked them to the second gate. Before boarding the carriage, old Mistress Zhou suddenly smiled at Sangwan and said, "In the future, when my Jingy comes back, please take care of her. This old one would like to thank young Mistress Shi first." Sangwan hurriedly dodged and returned the greeting with a smile. "Auntie, you're being too courteous. Jingy is my sister-in-law, and the two of us get along quite well. There's no need to take care of her." Old Mistress Zhou sighed and said, "Other than being kind, this daughter of mine is really useless. Young Mistress Shi, you have to guide her more in the future. I mean what I said. If she was half as good as you, she wouldn't have fallen to such a state." "Mother, what nonsense are you talking about? Let's go quickly. Sister-in-law, go ahead and do your work. Don't worry about us." Zhou Jingyi couldn't help but feel embarrassed. When Sangwan first entered the family, she was also not liked by Shi Fengjiu. She saw it with her own eyes. Later on, when she heard that the two of them got along well, she was curious and puzzled. But if her mother asked in front of her, wouldn't it be embarrassing for Sangwan? Old Mistress Zhou also felt that it was a little inappropriate, but as a mother, she only cared about her daughter, so she couldn't care less. She smiled apologetically and said, "Young Mistress Shi, if I said anything wrong, please don't take it to heart. I just feel sorry for my daughter, Sangwan forced a smile and said, "Madam, you worry too much. Jingyi and I are sisters-in-law, and we will get closer in the future. Jingyi is very good, and I believe that when second young master comes back, he will see how good she is." "Haha, then I'll take advantage of your auspicious words." Old Mistress Zhou smiled. Under her daughter's urging, she finally got on the carriage and left the Shi family. Sangwan had a lot of things to do on the way back. She reported to Wang that she had sent off the Zhou family's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law before returning to Ning Garden. She originally thought that Shi Fengjiu would come back to see her after he went to the second branch's residence, but he didn't. In the evening, Chang Huan came in with a message, saying that young master was busy today and might not be back until later. She asked young mistress to have dinner first and not to wait for him. Sangwan felt uneasy for no reason. After waiting for more than an hour, the sky outside had completely darkened, but Shi Fengjiu still hadn't returned. "Young mistress, since young master is busy and will be back late, you should have dinner first and not wait for him. If you're hungry, I'm afraid young master will be distressed," Mama Li said. Sangwan was a little absent-minded and nodded. "All right. I don't have much of an appetite, so I'll just pick 2 dishes and put them on the table. I'll leave some good ones for young master." She then asked what soup she had made today. When she heard that it was Gastrodia elata squab soup, she let it go and ordered Xiaohua to simmer it for Shi Fengjiu. Mama Li saw that she was so considerate of Shi Fengjiu in everything and felt sorry for her. She smiled and said, "That soup has been simmering for half a day, so it must taste fragrant and delicious. Old slave, give young mistress a bowl to appease your appetite. How can young master eat so much?" Sangwan didn't want to reject her good intentions, so she smiled and nodded. After dinner, Shi Fengjiu still hadn't returned. It wasn't until it was almost time for him to go to bed that he hurriedly came in from outside. Sangwan had already taken off her hair and taken a bath. Her hair was loosely tied behind her head, and she wore a soft purple robe embroidered with white magnolia over her inner clothes. She hurriedly went out to greet him and said, "Why are you back so late? Won't the sun rise tomorrow? Why do you have to finish everything today?" Shi Fengjiu took the opportunity to squeeze her hand and said with a smile, "I'll tell you later. I'm a little hungry." Sangwan said, "The food is being heated up in the kitchen. How about we just put it in the warm room? Shifengju naturally didn't have any objections. He washed his face with the hot water that a maidservant brought over, and changed into a loose, homely robe. After dinner, Shifengju said to Sangwon, I'm going on a long trip tomorrow. If I'm quick, I won't be back for more than a month. If I'm slow, I won't be back for more than 2 months. You stay at home well. Sangwon's expression immediately changed. Why are you going out so suddenly? Shifengju saw her reaction and was both happy and reluctant to part with her. He held her hand and said with a warm smile, I'm going to Dojo. Second aunt and second uncle are worried about letting others go, so I'll go personally. It'll make them feel at ease. Moreover, second brother is the master. If he refuses to come back no matter what, the servants won't dare to do anything to him. If I see him, I'll bring him back no matter what. Fortunately, the canal has already thawed. I'll take a fast boat and be back soon. You stay at home and help me take care of mother. We'll talk about other things when I come back. Sangwon didn't say anything for a long time. Her mind was still in a blank state. She naturally couldn't persuade him not to go. After a long silence, she nodded and said, Then go and come back early. Be careful on the road. By the way, does mother know about this? Shifengju shook his head and said with a smile, After I left second uncle and second aunt's place today, I went to the business to arrange everything. I didn't come back until now. I'll go tell mother later. Sangwon forced a smile and said, Then go. I told you to come back early to rest. I'll help you pack your things so you can bring them on the road tomorrow. Shifengju smiled and nodded. He suddenly stretched out his arms and pulled her into his embrace. He lowered his head and kissed her cheeks a few times. He said in a low voice, Won-young, I usually don't feel like going out, but now I feel like I don't want to be separated from you at all. Wait for me to come back. Sangwon's mind was also a little empty. She nodded reluctantly and said with a smile, Hurry up and go to mother's place. Come back early to rest. Shifengju smiled, and then let go of her. When Wang heard that he would be away for a month or 2 tomorrow, she immediately felt unhappy. She said with a fierce face, Why are you so anxious? Finding someone is important, but your body isn't important? You don't even have enough time to pack your luggage tonight. Don't try to make me say good things about your second aunt. Her son is your son, but other people's sons are not your sons. She must have instigated you. You too, why did you listen to her? Mother. Shifengju smiled and said, What's the difference between 2 days earlier and 2 days later? Won-young will help me pack, and I can just buy the rest when I get back. It's not my first time going out, I know what to do. Second aunt and second uncle have been thinking about second brother for so long. It's better for everyone if second brother comes back early. Wang was still unhappy and complained a lot more. Seeing that her son had already made up his mind, she knew that she could not persuade him otherwise, so she gave him another round of advice. Shifengju did not mind her nagging and nodded with a smile as he listened to her. All right. I won't talk to you anymore. Since you have to hurry up tomorrow morning, you should go back and rest. You'll be resting on the boat tomorrow night, eh? As Wang spoke, she could not help but complain about second old mistress Sure. Shifengju agreed with a smile and said, Mother, there's one more thing. Cousin will be back in 2 days, right? Wang's eyes flashed and she stared at him suspiciously. Yes, she'll naturally be back after the ritual. Where else could she have gone? Let's not talk about that for now. We'll see when you're back. Shifengju said, Mother, Won-young has also tried to persuade me, but I really don't want to take in a cousin. It's fine as long as you know this. We'll talk about the rest when I'm back. I've already told Won-young to take good care of you when I'm not around. Wang felt a wave of frustration in her heart. She did not know what was wrong with her son, but since it was not the time to talk about it, she nodded and said, Then we'll talk about it when you're back. She then snorted and looked at him. Don't think that I'm really old and muddle-headed. Even if we don't talk about it, I'll still feel tired for you. Don't worry, I won't eat your wife when you're not home. I'll definitely make her wait for you to come back. Chapter 213. When she arrived at Peony Park, she changed her clothes and combed her hair. Her entire appearance seemed to have changed, as if she had been reborn. She wore a light yellow dress with a thin layer of makeup on her face, making her look exceptionally beautiful. After Gu Fangzi finished tidying up, she went to Wang to flatter her, and coax Wang to no end. During lunch, she naturally served and ate at Wang's place. Although she was no longer in mourning, she still chose to eat light vegetarian dishes. When Wang saw this, her heart ached. She ordered a servant to serve her a bowl of ham, bamboo shoots, and chicken soup. She smiled gently and said, "Eat more delicious food to nourish your body. You're still growing, so how can you only eat vegetarian dishes? You'll only harm your body. What's done is done, so don't think about it. As a person, you have to look forward." "Thank you for your concern, Auntie." Gu Fangzi's eyes reddened. She pulled on Wang's sleeve and gently shook it. She affectionately said, "Right now in this world, I only have you, Auntie, as my elder relative. I only hope that Auntie will live a long life of 100 years and have good fortune. That way, I can be filial to you for the rest of my life and repay your kindness." "You have good intentions, Auntie naturally knows. Hee, there's Auntie for everything." Wang was moved. She gently patted her hand and urged her to drink the soup while it was still hot. Gu Fangzi smiled sweetly. She obediently drank the soup and ate the meal. She accompanied Wang for a stroll in the courtyard. After chatting for a while, Gu Fangzi smiled and said, "Auntie, since I've returned from the temple, my Peony Park should be renovated and tidied up. It'll be good to have a new and auspicious atmosphere. It's just that everything is stored in the storeroom. It'll take 2 or 3 days to clean and tidy it up. I think I'll go to the guest room to rest for the next 2 or 3 days. I'll freeload at Auntie's place during the day. Auntie, please don't dislike me." Wang smiled and said, "How could I dislike you? Didn't you all eat with me when you were young? You are quite right. It is time to rearrange the garden for a new atmosphere. Not only in the house but also in the garden. The gardeners should replant the plants. This is the perfect season. In my opinion, you don't have to stay in the guest room. You can rest here tonight. It's cheap." That was what Gu Fangzi had in mind. That was why she purposely said that she was here to freeload. Hearing Wang Shi's words, Gu Fangzi was delighted and quickly said with a smile, "If Aunt Wang doesn't find me annoying, then I'll take advantage of you. You're so talkative." Wang scolded jokingly. The two of them looked at each other and burst into laughter. After Wang took her afternoon nap, Gu Fangzi took Lan Xiang to Ning Garden. Mama Li's face darkened when she heard that Gu Fangzi was here. She sneered and said, "I knew she was a restless person." The moment she came back, she gave young mistress a show of strength. She clearly came back a long time ago and should have come to see you when she saw old mistress. But she only came at this time. In this old servant's opinion, we should leave her outside for at least an hour to suppress her arrogance. That way, she won't know the immensity of heaven and earth. As he said that, he ordered Jita to go out and pass down the message that young mistress was not free at the moment, and asked her to wait. "Forget it, let her come in." Sangwon shook her head and smiled at Mama Li. She said, "Although she didn't come, she has been accompanying Mother in the main courtyard. It can be considered filial. How can I fight with Mother? If I don't see her now, who knows what she will say? When that time comes, I'm afraid Mother won't be happy. Let her come. We'll just see her once and send her away." Mama Li laughed and said, "Young mistress, you are the one who understands." Old slave was angered by her, until he became muddle-headed. Only then did Xingji go out to pass on the message. Gu Fangzi and Lan Xiang waited at the door for a while, but did not see anyone coming out. Lan Xiang was a little nervous and whispered to Gu Fangzi, "Young mistress, is young mistress angry and purposely making things difficult for young mistress?" Gu Fangzi sneered. "That's just right. Moreover, she's the legal wife, so it's only right." Before she could finish speaking, Xingji had already walked over with light steps and smiled as she invited the master and servant to enter. Gu Fangzi smiled and nodded as she followed behind Xingji. Thinking carefully, it seemed that she had not stepped into Ning Garden for a long time. Looking at this familiar yet somewhat unfamiliar place, Gu Fangzi was a little dazed for a moment. There were many roses in the courtyard. On both sides of the courtyard and under the corridor, there were roses planted on the ground, and also in flower pots. Red, yellow, white, pink, and orange were blooming beautifully, especially the bright red ones. The flowers were plump and had double petals that swayed in the wind. It was very bright and beautiful. Gu Fengzi's footsteps paused and she asked Xingji with a smile, "When did you plant so many roses? It's so lively when it's open." Xingji smiled faintly and replied, "In reply to young mistress, they were planted before the new year. Young mistress likes them, so young master specially sent people to get them from all over the place. You didn't see them during the new year, but there were even more than this. The vases and flower pots in the house were all filled with roses, and the whole house was filled with their fragrance." Gu Fengzi's smile froze and she forced a smile as she replied with an, "Oh." Her heart felt sour as if there was a hand fiercely clenching it. Why did she ask this? She deserved to cause trouble for others. Gu Fengzi forcefully suppressed the sourness in her heart and calmly entered the house. Entering the warm room, she curtsied to Sangwon with a smile. "Greetings to older sister. I should have come over earlier, but I accompanied Aunt and spoke a few more words. Aunt also left me a meal. I didn't expect that I would come at this time. I was afraid that older sister would blame me, so I rushed over. I hope that older sister won't take offense. It's just a small matter. How could I blame you? Mother likes you, so you should spend more time with mother. It can be considered as being filial to young master and me. I can't thank you enough." Sangwon smiled faintly. Gu Fengzi heard this and felt extremely uncomfortable. She smiled and said, "I'm relieved that older sister doesn't blame me. Aunt's kindness to me is as heavy as a mountain, so I should be filial to her. Older sister thanking me for this, I don't dare accept it." Sangwon smiled and didn't refute. She smiled and said, "Since you're no longer in mourning, Peony Park should naturally be redecorated. Everyone has their own preferences, and I'm limited in what I can do. Moreover, there are other matters in the manor that need to be taken care of, so you'll have to trouble yourself. The things from before are all in the storeroom, and the booklet is also in your hands. You can go and find someone to open the storeroom and take it. I'll have Mama Lee help you from the side. After all, she was the one who tidied up your courtyard. What do you think?" Sangwon had already said it so clearly, so what else could Gu Fengzi do? She couldn't ask Sangwon to personally decorate her courtyard. That was fine, but she also had to keep Mama Lee on the side to keep an eye on her. Gu Fengzi couldn't help but feel annoyed. But before she could say anything, Mama Lee had already stepped forward to salute Sangwon and said, "Young mistress, don't worry. Old slave will definitely arrange everything properly and won't trouble young mistress. Old slave may be old now, but he's not muddle-headed. It's not that old slave is boasting, but when the old slave does things, even eldest madam has never found fault with him." "That's natural," Sangwon smiled and said to Gu Fengzi. "What do you think?" Gu Fengzi smiled gratefully. "I couldn't ask for anything more from Mama personally doing the work. I'm feeling ashamed, so how could I have any objections? Then that's it, I'll have to trouble Mama." "That's right, older sister. Peony Park hasn't been tidied up yet, so it's not convenient for me to move in. Aunt said to let me stay with her for a few days, so I'm afraid it won't be convenient for me to come and greet older sister this morning. Older sister, please forgive me." Mama Lee's brows furrowed slightly when she heard this. She was both shocked and annoyed. She didn't expect Gu Fengzi to curry favor with eldest madam right after she returned today. Sangwon was very calm about this. Who knew how many times her mother-in-law had nagged her about how to treat Gu Fengzi, this younger sister. She had always been protective of her, so it wasn't a big deal for her to stay with her. She responded indifferently and sent Gu Fengzi away. This vixen is really shameless. Mama Lee spat at Gu Fengzi's back as she left. Eldest young master isn't home, so she doesn't want to waste her energy. She actually set her sights on eldest madam. "Mama," Sangwon smiled inside. "Don't be angry, it's not worth it to harm your body. Mother has always doted on her and Peony Park needs to be tidied up. It's not a big deal to have her stay for a few days." "What do you mean it's not a big deal?" Mama Lee became anxious and said, "The servants will see. Eldest young mistress, think about it. She has eldest madam by her side to eat and live with her as soon as she returns. Isn't that doting in the eyes of the servants? They're so short-sighted, they might even think that you've fallen out of favor. She's always been scheming and knows how to buy people's hearts. Moreover, she's not an outsider without foundation in this fu. Who knows what she'll do? Sangwon hadn't thought about this at first. After hearing Mama Lee's words, she was slightly startled. Mama Lee saw her like this and regretted making things difficult for her. She hurriedly smiled and said, "Old slave was just saying that. It's actually not a big deal. However, it can be seen that her heart isn't pure. We just have to be alert and guard against her. Don't take it to heart. Focus on taking care of your body. As for the other miscellaneous matters, there's old slave, Xingji, and Luya to take care of." Sangwon's head relaxed as expected. She smiled gratefully and said, "It's still Mama who treats me the best." Mama Lee chuckled and said, "Before eldest young master left, he instructed old slave to take good care of eldest young mistress. Old slave remembers it." Sangwon's eyes dimmed slightly, and she forced a smile. She didn't know where that person was now. Mama Lee also regretted her slip of the tongue. She shouldn't have mentioned Shi Fengju to stir up her worries. She hurriedly smiled and changed the topic. As for the rearrangement of Peony Park, Gu Fengzi didn't make any trouble. She only went to take a look around every day. She checked her previous things and didn't see anything missing. Everything was decided by Mama Lee. Gu Fengzi wasn't willing, but she knew that eldest cousin had told her to remember her identity many times. He wanted her to remember, so she naturally had to remember. She didn't want to leave any evidence that could be used against her when he came back. Mama Lee was previously on guard, so she was surprised to see her like this. However, during this period, something that wasn't too big or too small happened. The cause was that Gu Fengzi was talking with Wang. For some reason, they started talking about bubble shell pastries. This was one of Wang's favorite pastries. However, it was more complicated to make, so she usually wouldn't ask someone to make it. Today, her appetite was aroused by Gu Fengzi. Wang couldn't help but mutter a few words. Gu Fengzi smiled and said, "It's rare for Aunt to think of something to eat all year round. Since you want to eat it, just ask the kitchen to make it. Thanks to Aunt, I can also try something new." Chapter 214. When Wang heard this, she was very happy and joked with Gu Fengzi. "You're such a clever monkey. I think you want this more than I do. You're so generous." The maidservants and grannies all laughed. Gu Fengzi also laughed and complained, "Aunt, you're wrongly accusing me. I only said that because Aunt likes it. Since that's the case, how about I be filial to Aunt this time?" She didn't wait for Wang to speak and told Lan Xiang to go to the kitchen to inform them. Lan Xiang agreed and went. She had already received Gu Fengzi's instructions and naturally knew what to say. When she went to the kitchen, she didn't mention Wang at all. She only said that the young miss wanted to make soaked snail pastries and told the kitchen to make them and wait for her to pick them up. The money would be put on the young miss's account. How could the kitchen know that this was actually the old mistress's dessert? When she heard that Gu Fengzi wanted it, she was a bit lazy. When she saw Lan Xiang's arrogant and bossy tone, she was even more unhappy. She impolitely said, "Miss Lan Xiang, this soaked snail pastries are troublesome to make. I don't have time right now. Let's wait a few days." Who knew that before she finished speaking, Lan Xiang had already run off? She didn't know if she heard her or not. The kitchen servant said blind, and didn't argue. She just thought that she heard it, and turned around to forget about it, and busy herself with other things. Ever since the young Mrs. mourning period ended, the young master almost never went to see her. Instead, he spent all his time looking after the young mistress. Now that the young mistress was in charge of the household, how could the servants not understand her? Why would he care about a concubine who had lost her power? The result of this matter was obvious. Wang was furious. She was the grand old mistress of the household. She couldn't even eat a simple dessert? How could this be? She immediately called the kitchen maid who was on duty over, and gave her a scolding. Gu Fengzi, on the other hand, kept apologizing and saying things that were clearly fanning the flames. which made Wang Shi even angrier. Only now did the cook realize that it was the first madam who wanted to eat the soaked snail cakes. She couldn't help but secretly complain, cursing Lan Xiang in her heart. But at this time, who would dare to argue that Lan Xiang did not make things clear? If he said this now, he was afraid that the punishment would be even heavier. She had no choice but to kowtow and beg for mercy. She insisted that she was too busy to remember, and would make up for it tomorrow. She begged First Madam for mercy. Even Sangwon was alarmed and hurried over to ask what was going on. Wang had a belly full of anger, and had nowhere to vent it. When she saw her, she sneered and said, "This family is in your hands, but you've managed it well. Every one of them is well disciplined. I couldn't even eat a dessert if I wanted to. I had to wait for the kitchen to be free. Take a look at the good deed you've done." Sangwon was shocked and immediately knelt down. She raised her head and said, "Mother, what do you mean? Daughter-in-law serves mother wholeheartedly, and has never had the slightest bit of negligence. Mother, please understand. Perhaps sister-in-law Sue misheard. Mother, don't be angry. I'll have her make it tomorrow." "No need." Wang sneered and said, "How could I eat it? Besides, isn't it just a dessert? It doesn't matter if I eat it or not. Don't delay other people's proper work." When sister-in-law Sue heard this, her heart began to beat wildly. She repeatedly kowtowed and begged for mercy. "Mother, what are you saying? It's all because this daughter-in-law didn't discipline her properly, and caused this disturbance for no reason. I've made mother angry. When eldest young master left home, he repeatedly told me to serve mother well, and make sure that mother can live comfortably. Who would have thought that something like this would happen after he left home for only a few days? This daughter-in-law is truly ashamed. Mother, if you say this again, this daughter-in-law will be even more ashamed. You're the first madam of the manor, and the head of the manor. Who in the entire manor would dare to be disrespectful to you? Unless they don't want to live anymore. There must be a misunderstanding. Mother, if you get angry because of this misunderstanding, not only will you feel bad, but this daughter-in-law will also feel bad. Mother, please calm down, okay?" Sangwon hurriedly begged again. Wang Shi also thought about it. That's right, her son and daughter-in-law had always been filial. She was also the eldest sister-in-law of the same generation. Other than the few memorial tablets in the ancestral hall, who else could surpass her? Which servant would dare to be disrespectful to her? She was afraid that there really was a misunderstanding. Mama Li saw that Wang's expression had softened and she was silent. She went forward and said with a smile, "That's right, young mistress. Eldest young mistress is right. Not to mention anything else, the person who went to pass the message wasn't someone from the main courtyard. It was Lan Xiang. A moment of carelessness in the kitchen can't be blamed on them. I don't know how Lan Xiang passed the message, and if she made it clear." Before Mama Li finished speaking, sister-in-law Sue seemed to have grasped at a life-saving straw. She hurriedly said, "Miss Lan Xiang only told the old slave to quickly make the bubble shell pastries. She didn't say that the first madam wanted them. At the time, the old slave still had some things to do. He said that he would make them tomorrow. Who knew?" Auntie Sue was quick-witted. She changed the topic from "let's wait a few days" to "we'll do it tomorrow." Lan Xiang was furious. She glared at Auntie Sue but couldn't refute her, because she ran away after giving the order. When she told Wang and Gu Fangzi that she had already given the order, Wang naturally thought that since she had given the order, they would do it. Who knew that sister-in-law Sue would say that Lan Xiang had deliberately concealed the truth? If she had told Wang that she would make them tomorrow, Wang wouldn't be so angry. "Sister-in-law Sue, don't say any more." Gu Fangzi gently cut off sister-in-law Sue's words and nodded apologetically to her. "This is all my fault. I didn't think of it that way. I didn't think that I'm just a guest now. My words naturally don't carry any weight. If I had known, I would have told Lan Xiang to make it clear that it was my aunt who wanted it. Then this misunderstanding wouldn't have happened." She was indirectly saying that sister-in-law Sue was disrespectful to her. Sister-in-law Sue's expression changed slightly. Before she could speak, Mama Li casually said, "Miss Gu is right about one thing. If Lan Xiang had made it clear, there wouldn't have been a misunderstanding. The kitchen was really busy yesterday, Did Miss Gu forget? Yesterday, we had to make a big sacrifice for the Shi family's ancestral hall. Miss Gu's father also had to make a sacrifice. Everyone in the kitchen was as busy as a spinning top. Sister-in-law Su said to make soaked shell pastries tomorrow. The old slave doesn't think there's anything wrong with that. Wang was originally furious when she heard Gu Fangzi's words. Just as she was about to throw a tantrum, she heard Mama Li's words and kept quiet. Every time Shi Fengju went out on a long journey, on the 1st and 15th day of the lunar month or the birthday of some deity, they would have to make a sacrifice to their ancestors so that they could bless Shi Fengju's safety and smoothness. This was something that Wang had personally instructed many years ago. Until now, it had been done accordingly. Her son's safety was naturally more important than her soaked shell pastries. How could she neglect the important matters of her ancestors? Lan Xiang could only kneel down and bow her head. This servant was rushing back to report to Old Mistress and Mississippi. I didn't hear what sister-in-law Su said after that. Then, this is a misunderstanding. Miss, what do you think? Let sister-in-law Su do it tomorrow. It's not worth it for Miss to be angry over such a small matter. Mama Li smiled. Sister-in-law Su quickly kowtowed to show her sincerity. Wang waved her hand and sighed with a frown. Forget it, forget it. There's no need to make it tomorrow. I don't have the appetite. Get up. Wan Yang, you get up as well. In the future, all of you have to be more reliable. Don't be so careless and make others angry for no reason. Everyone quickly agreed. Mama Li went forward to help Sangwon up. Gu Fangzi also went forward and helped Sangwon up with Mama Li. She smiled and said, "It's all my fault." Lan Xiang, that girl, didn't do things properly and caused elder sister to be wronged. Later, I will definitely teach her a lesson. Elder sister is in charge of so many things in the Fu. It's no wonder that you've neglected one or two things. It's really been hard on elder sister. Younger sister has also caused trouble for elder sister. Younger sister feels very apologetic. Please be magnanimous and forgive younger sister this time. Younger sister apologizes to elder sister. After that, she took 2 steps back and curtsied. Sangwon could not help but be secretly angry. She smiled faintly and said, "Younger sister, you're being too serious. It's just a misunderstanding. What grievance do I have? Instead, I've implicated mother and ruined mother's mood. It's my negligence." Sangwon looked at Wang and smiled. "Mother, you're the magnanimous one. Please forgive your daughter-in-law this time." Wang could not help but laugh and sighed. Forget it, forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. Normally, with so many things in the Fu, it's normal for you to have neglected one or two things. Mother only said that in a fit of anger, so don't take it to heart. In the future, the servants will have to be taught a lesson so that they won't become careless after living comfortably for too long. Also, Fangzi is also a mistress in the Fu. Her words are also words. If anyone dares to not take it seriously in the future, I won't let it go. Wang originally wanted to ask Gu Fangzi to help Sangwon manage the household, but she suddenly remembered what her son said before he left. It was obvious that he did not want Gu Fangzi to be involved in the Fu's affairs. Thus, she held back the words that were on the tip of her tongue. Sangwon and Mama Li secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Sangwon respectfully agreed and bid farewell to Mama Li. She also took Auntie Su with her. If Wang were to give power to Gu Fangzi in this situation, who knows how many people in the Fu would have other thoughts. Even if she did not give power, her last sentence was to protect Gu Fangzi. Gu Fangzi hurriedly coaxed Wang Shi with sweet words, and finally, Wang Shi was in a good mood and laughed heartily. Gu Fangzi, on the other hand, was secretly depressed. She originally thought that her aunt would let her help manage the household. But now that De Biao was not around, there was no one who understood the foundation of the Fu better than her. As long as she casually made some moves, Sangwon would suffer a few losses and lose favor in front of her aunt. Even if De Biao were to return, everything would be set in stone. Unexpectedly, her aunt was about to say something, but for some reason, she did not say anything. She had put in so much effort to create this scene, but it was all in vain. Fortunately, after this incident, everyone saw how much her aunt cared about her. For the time being, No one would dare to look down on her. This was better than nothing. Gu Fengzi stayed at Wang's place for 4 days before moving back to Peony Park. She claimed that Mama Li had worked hard, and to express her gratitude, she specially asked Lan Xiang to reward Mama Li with money and clothes. Mama Li was surprised. She thought that the sun had risen from the west. Chapter 215. A servant naturally couldn't refuse a reward from a master. Mama Li accepted it and had no choice but to personally go to Peony Park to express her gratitude. Gu Fengzi received Nanny Li with a smile, which was out of character. She called Nanny Li intimately, which gave Nanny Li goosebumps. Gu Fengzi wanted Mama Li to stay for a meal, but Mama Li said that she had something to do and hurriedly left. After thinking about it, she felt that Gu Fengzi was being unaccountably solicitous. After pondering for a while, she slapped her thigh and felt that she understood her actions. She couldn't help but secretly grit her teeth. This scoundrel, she was doing it on purpose for young mistress to see and make young mistress suspicious of her. Thinking of this, Mama Li couldn't sit still anymore, and immediately brought the things Gu Fengzi gave her to Sangwan. She dismissed the servants and said, "Young mistress, this is a reward from Miss Gu to Old Slave." She said that Old Slave had worked hard to tidy up the house for her. Old Slave thought that Old Slave was only doing his duty and did so under young mistress's orders. Old Slave doesn't dare to accept this reward, so young mistress should handle it. Sangwan smiled slightly and got up to pull Mama Li to sit down. She smiled and said, "Mama, there's no need to be like this. Mama is young master's wet nurse and has always taken care of Wan Yang. Wan Yang is very clear about what kind of person Mama is. Since it's a reward from Miss Gu, Mama should enjoy it with peace of mind. You tidied up the house for her, so it's normal for her to express her gratitude." Mama Li sighed in relief and hurriedly said, "It's good that young mistress understands. Old Slave only recognizes young mistress in his heart. Don't even think about the evil spirits, foxy charms and crooked ways." Before young master left home, he had instructed the Old Slave to serve young mistress well, and not let young mistress suffer. Nanny's kindness to Wan Yang is something that Wan Yang doesn't know. Sangwan felt warmth in her heart and smiled gratefully. If she succeeds in sowing discord, Nanny's protection of Wan Yang would be in vain. "Nanny, please don't think too much." As she spoke, she glanced at the fine silk and said with a smile, "Since it's her kind intentions, it's only right for Mama to accept it." With young mistress's words, the Old Slave is relieved. Mama Li was also delighted. She smiled and said, "Young mistress is right. Since we haven't done anything wrong, we don't need to be afraid of ghosts knocking on our door. Since they're offering it to us, we should accept it." "That's right." The two looked at each other and smiled. Early the next morning, Sangwan had just gotten up, combed her hair and washed her face to prepare for breakfast when a servant came in and reported, "Young mistress, Miss Gu has come to pay her respects." The concubines of large families often had to pay their respects to the main wife early in the morning. If they met a strict main wife, they would have to rush to help her change clothes and wash up. After that, they would be led by the main wife to pay their respects to the elders in the family. If it was a lowly concubine, they wouldn't even have the chance to pay their respects to the elders in the family. They could only accompany the main wife and wait outside the elders' courtyard. Sangwan couldn't help but be slightly startled when she heard this. She subconsciously frowned. She knew that Gu Fengzi wasn't doing this to respect her or to curry favor with her. Instead, she was here to take on the identity of a concubine. Sangwan suddenly felt very uncomfortable. She knew that Gu Fengzi wouldn't be obedient when Shifengju wasn't around. "Young mistress, since she's here, let her in. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if word got out. We can't just let her wait at the door like this." Mama Li went forward and said. Sangwan reluctantly nodded her head. Not a moment later, Gu Fengzi came in with Lan Xiang. She was wearing a yellow jacket embroidered with bamboo leaves and a beige pleated skirt with plum branches. Her hair was combed and there was a jasper hairpin with pearls embedded in it. The ends of the silver tassels were different in length. There were 3 strands, each with a red gem the size of a little finger. It was fresh and elegant with a touch of beauty. Greetings to elder sister. Gu Fangzi went forward with a smile and curtsied to Sangwon. However, her slender waist wasn't soft at all. Instead, it seemed to be straight and wouldn't bend down. When Sangwon heard this elder sister, it was especially harsh. She raised her hand and said, "You don't have to come so early in the future. Come after breakfast. After that, you can go to mother's place to greet her." When Gu Fangzi heard her commanding tone, she felt very uncomfortable. She secretly scolded her for being pretentious, but she had no choice but to obediently agree. She smiled and said, "Elder sister is so considerate. It's younger sister's good fortune. Since elder sister has said so, younger sister will naturally do as elder sister says." Sangwon nodded. If they were to have breakfast now, she would have to ask her to stay. However, Sangwon felt that she couldn't eat in front of her, and was too lazy to eat. She told her to sit by herself, and went into the warm room. When it was about time, they went to Wang's place together. When Wang saw the two of them coming together, she was very happy and specially said a few good words to Sangwon. When Sangwon saw this, she secretly complained. Wang was really treating the two of them as sisters. How could this be? If she waited until Shifengju came back and brought up the old matter, wouldn't Wang hate her to death? Sangwon thought about it and said with a smile, "Mother, your daughter-in-law isn't that particular. In the future, younger sister doesn't have to go to my place to greet her. She can come directly to mother's place. It's rare that you like younger sister. Let her accompany you more." After thinking about it, Sangwon still felt that it was better for Gu Fangzi to stay as far away from her as possible. It would be best if they didn't have to meet. In the future, no matter what Shifengju did, it would prevent others from blaming her. When Wang heard Sangwon say this, how could she refuse? She naturally smiled and said yes. Gu Fangzi originally didn't want to go to her place to greet her. It was enough that she had done it once, so she agreed. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed. The smell of spring was very strong. Under the warm spring sun, swallows flew and cut the willows. Orioles chirped. The garden was colorful and the air was filled with the rich fragrance of flowers. Everything was filled with the vitality of life. Shifengju's letter finally reached Sangwon's hands. There were a total of 2 letters. One was written to mother, and was officially addressed to Wang. The other was written to my wife, and was naturally addressed to Sangwon. After receiving these 2 letters, Sangwon's heart, which had been gloomy for the past few days, suddenly became happy. She put away her letter and didn't dare to delay. She hurriedly took the other letter to the main courtyard to report to Wang. "Mother, eldest young master has sent a letter. I'm afraid he's already in Dazhou." At Wang's place, Gu Fangzi was talking to her. When she heard the news, she was very surprised. She beamed and said, "Ba, that's good, that's good. Quickly read it to me." Sangwon smiled and agreed. She opened the letter and read it. Indeed, he was already in Dazhou. He said that after asking around, Shifengming had indeed appeared in Dazhou. However, he was currently missing. Now he was asking people to look for him. Perhaps there would be results soon. He asked them to stay at home and take care of themselves. Wang nodded and sighed. Since Shifengming appeared in Dazhou, there's an 80% chance that he can be found this time. Even if we can't find him, at least we know that he's safe and sound. This is also good news. Later, go and see your second aunt personally and tell her this news. "Yes, mother." As Sangwon spoke, she put the letter back into the envelope and handed it to Wang. This was Wang's letter, so it was naturally inconvenient for her to keep it. She smiled and asked, "Mother, I'll write a reply to eldest young master when I get back. Does mother have anything to say?" Wang glanced at her and chuckled. "Tell him to take care of himself outside. Although the weather is warm, it'll be cold in the morning and evening. It'll be bad if he forgets to wear more clothes and catches a cold. Also take care of his safety. Leave the task of looking for him to the servants. Don't tire yourself out. And we're all waiting for him to come back soon." Sangwon smiled and agreed. Gu Fangzi saw that Shifengju didn't mention her at all in the letter. She was very unhappy. At this moment, she smiled and said, "Older sister, I also have a few words to say to eldest cousin. Is that okay? Sangwon naturally didn't like it. In front of Wang, she could only smile and nod. Younger sister, just say what you want to say. Gu Fengzi thought for a moment, then smiled and said, forget it, I won't trouble older sister. I'll write it myself later. I'll have to trouble older sister to send it out together. Eldest cousin hadn't seen her for a long time. Perhaps he had forgotten that she was already out of mourning. He didn't ask about her, but she still cared about him. She wanted to let him know her feelings for him. That's fine. I'll send this letter the day after tomorrow. Younger sister, bring it to Ning Garden for me at the latest tomorrow night. Sangwon said with a smile. With the other letter still on her mind, Sangwon said a few words before returning to Ning Garden 1. She entered the warm room alone and dismissed everyone. She took out the letter from her chest. Only then did she feel that her heart was beating wildly. Her hands were also slightly trembling. She couldn't help but panic. Opening the letter, there was a folded piece of snow-white paper inside. Sangwon gently unfolded it. The elegant handwriting that was like floating clouds and flowing water came into view. After reading a few lines, Sangwon suddenly closed the letter. The hand that was holding the letter unconsciously covered her chest. Her face flushed red. She could clearly feel her heart beating wildly in her chest. She knew that he would definitely say something private to her. However, she didn't know that this was not only private, but also. It made her blush and her heart beat faster. This person was becoming more and more shameless. Sangwon felt both embarrassed and happy. Even though there was no one beside her, she still felt as if there were countless pairs of eyes staring at her. She couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt. The letter in her hand made her feel even more conflicted. She wanted to read it, but she didn't dare. She didn't know that at this time, her face was flushed red. Her watery eyes were sparkling, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised with an intoxicating smile. She could be described as enchanting and charming. She was as gorgeous as a hibiscus flower that had just bloomed. Sangwon took a deep breath. Finally, she couldn't resist the temptation. She gently unfolded the letter in her hand and read it from beginning to end. The smile on her lips didn't disappear. She couldn't help but mutter something from time to time. She was cursing that shameless lecher. After reading the letter, she was stunned. Her face turned completely red. She threw the letter away like it was a hot potato. She gritted her teeth and cursed, "This bastard, this bastard." Chapter 216. He saw that at the end of the letter, there was a poem that he could not bear to see. It said, "Spring is like the sea, rising like mud, taking advantage of the harmonious weather, blooming the flowers. For love, soaking the silk, the handkerchief is not filled with lovesick tears." There were 2 lines of small words at the end. It was a private conversation that he could not bear to hear. Sangwon's face was as red as rouge. Even her neck was red from embarrassment. She unconsciously raised her hand to cover her face. When her slightly cold hand touched her face, she felt slightly better. Her gaze fell on the letter that she had thrown on the ground. Thinking of that indecent poem, and then thinking of how he had gritted his teeth and said, "I'll settle this with you when I come back." Sangwon's heart suddenly became embarrassed again. There was a sound of voices coming from outside the door. Xingji seemed to be calling out, "Miss Biao." Sangwon was startled. Why did Gu Fengzi come? Before she could return to her senses, Gu Fengzi had already called out to her with a smile. "Sister." Gu Fengzi lifted the curtain and entered. Her gaze fell on the letter on the floor, and she bent down to pick it up. "Don't move." Sangwon was scared out of her wits. She felt a chill run down her spine. With a shout, she rushed forward like a gust of wind, and unceremoniously snatched the letter. Gu Fengzi, Lan Xiang, and Xingji who had followed him were all stunned. They stared at Sangwon as if they did not know her. Sangwon's actions had always been gentle and graceful. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would never have imagined that she would have such a side to her. Sangwon did not have the time to think about their reactions. She only let out a big sigh of relief. Luckily, if this letter fell into Gu Fengzi's hands and she saw it, she would not be able to face anyone. Sister, why are you here? Quickly take a seat. Xingji, pour some tea. In an instant, Sangwon had recovered from her shock. She sat down and said with a smile. Xingji bowed and left. Gu Fengzi stepped forward and stared at the letter in her hand. She smiled and said, Elder sister, this is also a letter from eldest cousin, right? I don't know what's written in the letter. Let little sister take a look. Sangwon's heart skipped a beat. She subconsciously wanted to say no, but if it wasn't, then what was it? She had clearly lost her composure just now. If this letter was written by Shi Fengjiu, then it would be fine. But if it wasn't, then it must have been written by someone else. If this someone else's letter could make her lose her composure, then there must be a problem. It was not impossible for people to say that they were having an affair. Sangwon tucked the letter into her sleeve and said with a smile, This is what De Xiaoye wrote for me. He only told me to serve Nyang well and take care of the mansion. Here, the envelope is still here. Sangwon said as she pointed at the coffee table beside her. Gu Fengzi followed her finger and looked at the brown envelope. The words, to my wife, were particularly glaring. Gu Fengzi's heart ached, but she still smiled and said, Good elder sister, why don't you let me take a look? Let me also listen to eldest cousin's teachings. Sangwon frowned and looked at her with a cold gaze. After a while she lightly said, This is not something you can see. Gu Fengzi suddenly became angry. Eldest cousin had warned her to remember her status, but who was Sangwon to dare speak to her like this? Elder sister. Gu Fengzi gave a cold smile and said in confusion, I'm curious. Since this letter was written by eldest cousin, why did elder sister throw it to the ground? Whenever aunt receives eldest cousin's letter, she would treat it like a treasure and hide it well. Does elder sister dislike eldest cousin so much? Or did eldest cousin tell elder sister something in the letter that made elder sister angry? After saying this, she gave a cold smile. Could it be that it has something to do with younger sister and made elder sister unhappy? The more Gu Fengzi thought about it, the more she felt that it was true. It must be that eldest cousin had asked this woman to take care of her, and she was jealous. Yes, it must be like this. What nonsense are you saying? Sangwon said. Which eye of yours saw me throw the letter out? It just fell to the ground when I wasn't looking. I was about to pick it up when you barged in. Xingji, Sangwon said as she turned her head to glare at Xingji. She frowned and said, How do you do things? Why didn't you inform us that Miss Biao was coming? No manners. This servant knows her mistake. Next time, this servant will be more careful. Xingji stepped forward with her hands down. Gu Fengzi was becoming more and more unrestrained in Ning Garden. She would often barge in without any explanation. They were only servants, so how could they stop her? Sangwon said coldly, You should be more careful. Otherwise, if everyone is as lazy as you, then the rules of this fu will become decorations. Go back and tell Mama Li to deduct half a month's salary. Do you hear me? Yes, young mistress. Xingji respectfully agreed. Elder sister, what is the meaning of this? Gu Fengzi was furious. She was punishing Xingji, but it was clearly a slap to her own face. Sangwon said with a smile, These servants don't know the rules. They even dared to be lazy when it comes to reporting, let alone other matters. I've wanted to teach them a lesson for a long time. Younger sister, why are you asking me this? Gu Fengzi stared at Sangwon in disbelief. Her heart was filled with astonishment. Never in her wildest dreams would she have thought that the previously polite and gentle Sangwon would have such a tough side to her. Shi Fengjiu wasn't here, so she didn't care about the people in this fu. With her clever methods, wouldn't she be able to do whatever she wanted? As for Sangwon, she didn't care about her at all. In her opinion, what could she do with her weak and gentle personality? You've finally revealed your true face. Gu Fengzi sneered. I've misjudged you and underestimated you. I don't know if eldest cousin will still think that you're gentle and virtuous when he sees you now. You really know how to act. Xingji and Lan Xiang's expressions changed. They both lowered their heads and didn't dare to speak. Sangwon didn't respond to her words and lightly said, Do you have anything else to say? If not, then you can leave. I'm busy right now. This slut, She actually dares to chase me away. Gu Fengzi stared hatefully at her and gritted her teeth. Let's wait and see. Sangwon, you stole my man. I, Gu Fengzi, will spend the rest of my life with you. I won't rest until I'm dead. After she finished speaking, she suddenly stood up and left. Lan Xiang only felt her legs go soft and she hurriedly followed after her. The room fell into silence. After a while, Xingji went forward and smiled apologetically. Young mistress, don't take her crazy words to heart. The tea is cold. This servant will go get you another cup. Sangwon nodded and smiled. Gu Fengzi was such a person. What difference would it make if she didn't take those words to heart? That hateful Shi Fengju. Why isn't he back yet? Now that he's back, he'll settle these matters. Ever since Gu Fengzi left that day, she never appeared in Ning Garden again. A few days passed, but she didn't find trouble with her. In front of Wang, she was full of smiles and called her big sister. Sangwon had goosebumps when she heard that. She couldn't believe that there was such a person in this world. On this day, third old mistress Shi suddenly came to visit. Sangwon welcomed her with a smile, and the two of them chatted in a corner of the warm room. Sangwon helped third old mistress Shi by a manner that she liked, and third old mistress Shi treated her differently from before. In fact, Sangwon felt a little guilty. Other than helping third old mistress Shi, she also wanted to buy it for herself. In the end, she spent 3,000 silvers to buy 200 mu of good quality farmland, and a 50 mu mountain manor in the southern suburbs. She secretly asked Luya to take care of it. After chatting for a while, third old mistress Shi suddenly smiled and said, Wan Yang, third aunt doesn't treat you as an outsider. I have something to say, but don't take it to heart. Third aunt, please speak your mind. Wan Yang isn't such a foolish person. Sangwon smiled. She was secretly wondering what third old mistress Shi meant by that. Then I'll be direct. Third old mistress Shi smiled. It's quite funny. A few days ago, I had a maidservant who ran to me to repeat what she said after hearing some nonsense from some unknown source. Anyway, those words weren't anything good. I didn't want to say it at first, but since I started it in front of you today, I'm afraid you'll be suspicious if I don't make it clear. Third old mistress Shi then casually told her about those words. It turned out that the servants in the household were gossiping, saying that the third old mistress Shi's family was insensible. They had been officials for so many years, yet they did nothing to help the household. Instead, they put on airs when they returned and made a fuss about this and that. They even said that they were going to renovate Qinghui Garden soon. Weren't they purposely causing trouble for young mistress and young master? Who knew when they would go out to take up their duties again? The maidservant wanted to see who it was, but she couldn't see clearly through the flowery fence. The two of them walked further and further away as they talked. So she ran back to Ji Chui Tower with a stomach full of anger, and told third old mistress Shi everything that happened. If it was before the new year, third old mistress Shi would definitely be fuming with anger and resent Sangwon after hearing those words. However, she was very grateful to Sangwon and Shi Fengju. So why would she resent them? When she heard those words, she was unhappy for a moment, but she quickly calmed down. She questioned the servant and sneered. Third old mistress Shi wasn't someone who hadn't seen the world, nor was she a foolish person. She watched coldly from the sidelines and saw Gu Fengzi jumping up and down to win people's hearts, especially to curry favor with Wang. Third old mistress Shi concluded that this was definitely not a concubine who knew her place. From third old mistress Shi's point of view, if a concubine didn't know her place, then she deserved to die. She thought about it for a moment and knew that there was something fishy going on. It most likely had something to do with Gu Fengzi, who was making a ruckus these days. She wanted to use her to cause trouble with Sangwon. How dare she? As for how innocent and childhood sweethearts Gu Fengzi and Shi Fengju used to be, third old mistress Shi didn't know. She only knew that Shi Fengju was very protective of Sangwon, a wife who was married from a small family. Without looking at other things, just for Shi Fengju's sake, third old mistress Shi would definitely not fall out with Sangwon. Even if she and her husband were to go out and become officials in a year or two, they would still have to return to their roots. They would still need the household's financial support every year. Now that the household's businesses were all managed by Shi Fengju, She would have nothing better to do if she offended Shifengju. Not to mention, after interacting with Sangwon, third old mistress sure actually quite liked this niece-in-law. After thinking about it, third old mistress sure made up her mind to tell Sangwon about this matter, so that she would remember her kindness and be on guard. Chapter 217. Sangwon was shocked and angry after hearing that, and her face turned ugly. No wonder Gu Fengzi called Wang big sister so affectionately, she had stabbed her in the back again. Sangwon secretly mocked herself. Gu Fengzi was good at backstabbing people, but she was muddle-headed and did not take precautions even after suffering so many losses. Third aunt, thank you for telling me this, Sangwon said gratefully. There are too many servants in the household. I wonder which one of them spouted nonsense. I've added to third aunt's anger for no reason. Fortunately, third aunt is a sensible person, or else I wouldn't be able to explain myself. Don't worry, you've always done things properly, and you're not one to talk behind people's backs. I don't believe these words. However, I can't guarantee whether others will believe it or not. Third old mistress sure smiled and left with this sentence. After sending third old mistress sure off, Sangwon called for Mama Lee and asked her to find out who passed by the flower fence at that time. Mama Lee was annoyed after hearing Sangwon's explanation. Young mistress, you're too kind, spoiling people until they become more unscrupulous. Not to mention this time, the matter of the shell pastries was obviously to sow discord between you and first old mistress. Now even third old mistress is involved. She continued. Fortunately, third old mistress is a sensible person if second old mistress. Mama Lee did not continue, but Sangwon understood what she meant. She said coldly, Nanny, you must find out who these two gossipers are. Young mistress, don't worry. This isn't difficult, it's just a little troublesome, Mama Lee said energetically. Once we find out who these two are, we must skin them alive. Although there were many servants in the manor, they all had their own duties. Who was on duty, when and what they were doing, could be found out. After checking layer by layer, they quickly found 5 daughters-in-law. After questioning them in detail, the remaining 2 who cleaned the garden could not deny it. The 2 women from Lu Shun's family and Wu Chuanfang's family were brought to Sangwon and Ning Garden. Before they knew what was going on, Mama Lee bluntly asked, Where were you 2 on the 23rd of March? The 2 women were so shocked that they were stunned. The 2 of them couldn't remember the exact date of that day, but they still felt guilty about what they did at that time. Not only them, but Gu Fengzi, who had been invited by Sangwon and was hiding behind the screen, also had a slight change in expression. You don't remember? Mama Lee sneered and said, Let me remind you, have you ever been to the East Garden's flower fence? The 2 of them looked at each other, dumbstruck. Yes, we have been there, Lu Shun's wife said with a smile. We were on duty that day and went to clean the fallen leaves. Why is Mama Lee suddenly asking about this? Could it be that we did something wrong? Right, Wu Chuanfang's wife nodded. We were there to clean. Mama Lee said coldly. You only cleaned and didn't say anything? Third foreign and eldest young mistress are also people you can talk about? When Li Shun's wife and Wu Chuanfang's wife heard this, they immediately cried out that they had been wronged, insisting that they did not admit it. Everyone shut up. Mama Lee said coldly. Don't be in a hurry to cry out that you have been wronged, let me finish. As she said this, she began to explain everything in detail. How many people were on duty that day in the garden, what everyone was doing at that time. She said them one by one, and they all matched up. In the end, only the 2 of them were left, and they just happened to be in that area of the flower fence. What else do you have to say? Could it be that there were other people in this fu when there were other people? Wu Chuanfang's face paled, and she hurriedly tried to explain. This servant remembers now. We were cleaning at Hibiscus Pavilion at that time, not at the flower fence. We were there in the morning. Full of nonsense. Mama Lee snorted. If I didn't have evidence, why would I bring the 2 of you here? In the morning, you were clearly at Plum Garden. Then you went to the wisteria and stayed there until lunch. After lunch, you spent some time with the sisters-in-law in the kitchen. After that, you went along the northeast corner of the garden to clean the flower fence. Am I right? I have witnesses here. If you don't behave, then go to the yard and kneel there to reflect. When you think it through, then we'll talk again. Li Shun's wife and Wu Chuanfang's wife trembled in fear when they heard this. Even Gu Fangzi felt slightly uneasy. She did not think that Sangwon would investigate this matter so thoroughly. When Li Shun and Wu Chunfang did that thing that day, they did not expect this day to come. They only prevented third old mistress Shi's maidservants from seeing their faces, and did not hide it from the people in the garden. The people in the garden had a fixed number of people. If Mama Li were to investigate seriously, how could she not catch them? The two of them looked at each other, then turned to Sangwon and kowtowed. Ma'am, please be merciful and forgive the old slave. The old slave is innocent. The old slave would not have the guts to talk behind his master's back. And please look into this matter and forgive the old slave. The two of them kowtowed loudly and begged. Sangwon had always been gentle and soft-hearted. As long as they begged her to forgive this matter, Mama Li was a servant after all. How could she not let it go? However, they did not know that this matter was originally ordered by Sangwon to do by Mama Li. It seems that I have been too merciful. Sangwon said coldly. That's why the two of you are so bold that you can't wait to ride on top of my head. In front of old mistress, you dare to cry and make a fuss? Sangwon's voice suddenly turned stern. The faces of the two men from Li Shun's family stiffened. Tears flowed down their faces, and they could no longer kowtow. Do you think I'm a fool? Sangwon said coldly. You know clearly whether Mama Li is innocent or not. If you don't admit it, don't blame me for being impolite. Who gave you the guts to talk behind your master's back and sow discord? I asked you and you didn't say anything. Do you want me to hand them over to the Jean housekeeper before you say anything? Mama Li, Sangwon raised her head and said, since they won't say anything, send them to the outer courtyard and hand them over to the Jean housekeeper. Tell the Jean housekeeper what happened, and let him interrogate them clearly. As for these two families, I think that if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Since they are unrepentant, they are not worthy of being pitied. When the time comes, deal with them together. Li Shun's and Wu Chuanfang's faces changed. Previously, they only dared to be impudent because Sangwon was soft-hearted. Since Sangwon was serious, how could they dare to be tough? Mama Li even knew their whereabouts for the day. It was obvious that they could not deny it. The two of them hurriedly kowtowed and begged for mercy. They kept slapping their mouths and said that they were muddle-headed and begged young mistress to be merciful. Sangwon pursed her lips and sat coldly without saying a word. Nanny Li understood and sneered. I don't think all of you are usually talkative. Who is the one who instigated all of you? Hurry up and tell me the truth. Gu Fangzi's eyes suddenly shrank and her hands clenched. Li Shun's family was simple-minded. Just as she was about to open her mouth and shout, Wu Chuanfang's family had already rushed to kowtow. No one ordered us servants to do that. It was us servants who were muddle-headed for a moment and spoke nonsense. We beg young mistress to be merciful. We won't dare to do it again. Li Shun's wife also came back to her senses and hurriedly kowtowed. Yes, it was us servants who were muddle-headed. After receiving benefits from Miss Gu, how could they dare to betray her? Miss Gu's temper was not easy to provoke. Mama Li asked again and again, but the two of them stubbornly refused to say anything. Sangwon said, you really are muddle-headed. You deserve to die. Younger sister, come out. Sangwon saw the two of them like this and knew that she would not be able to get anything out of them. Moreover, even if she asked, as long as Gu Fangzi denied it, she could not do anything to her. If she forced her too much and she cried, it would make her seem narrow-minded. What she wanted to do today was to make a show of force. No one should treat her as a fool. When Gu Fangzi came out from behind the screen, Li Shun's and Wu Chuanfang's faces turned pale the moment they saw her. Their backs were drenched in cold sweat as they secretly thanked their lucky stars. If they had called out Miss Gu just now, they would have been in deep trouble. Gu Fangzi's heart was angry, shocked, and hateful. She said unhappily, older sister asked people to invite me here just to let me see this strange play? Older sister, what do you mean by this? What, does younger sister think that this is a play? Sangwon said seriously. These wicked servants don't know how to keep their mouths shut. Their minds are dirty and despicable. They only care about causing trouble behind our backs. If we don't punish them severely, who knows what they will do in the future? If there is a day when the family turns against each other and the harmony between family members is damaged, then it will be a big matter. How can it be a play? Gu Fangzi snorted. Older sister is in charge of the family. How these servants are punished when they do something wrong? Why do you have to drag me here to listen? Could it be that older sister thinks that this matter has something to do with me? I can't hide my thoughts. Older sister doesn't need to hide it. If you have doubts about me, just ask me. There are some things that everyone knows, so how can you say that I have doubts? Younger sister, don't think too much. Sangwon smiled mockingly. The reason why I invited younger sister here is to hear younger sister's opinion. Younger sister, how do you think this matter should be handled? How would I know? It's just older sister's opinion. Gu Fangzi retorted coldly. Sangwon said, how can it be based on my opinion? Although there are rules in the family, I feel that they are too light. Instigating discord between the masters, no matter which family it is a big taboo. That's why I wanted to ask younger sister's opinion. Younger sister used to be in charge of the family, so I'm sure you have some good ideas. Gu Fangzi said coldly, older sister thinks too highly of me. When I was in charge of the family, nothing like this had ever happened before. That's why I don't know. Miss Gu's words are wrong. Mama Li quickly interrupted and said, old slave remembers that when young mistress first entered the family, there was a servant girl who said some things that shouldn't be said behind her back. She instigated the relationship between young mistress and Miss Gu. Didn't Miss Gu cry in front of old mistress after that? How can it be that this has never happened before? Miss Gu's memory is not as good as this old woman's. Gu Fangzi was suddenly speechless. She couldn't help but blush. Chapter 218. Since Mammy Li is so clear about it, why do you still ask me? Is older sister purposely trying to embarrass me? Gu Fangzi continued to speak coldly, her expression incomparably arrogant. Sangwon couldn't help but be secretly angry. She thought to herself that at this point, not only did she not know how to restrain herself, she even made false accusations. She didn't answer this question and said, now that Mama mentioned it, I also remembered. I remember that time those two servants knelt in the courtyard for a while. Afterwards, they were given a beating and sent to the farmstead to do manual labor. With the example from last time, there are still people who dare to do it this time. It can be seen that Mother was merciful last time. Let me be the evil person. Mama Li, give those two servants 30 beatings each and deduct 3 months of their wages. Send their families to the farmstead. There's no need to wait until tomorrow. Do it right now. Tell everyone in the manor about this matter, and tell everyone not to do it again in the future. Otherwise, I'm afraid the consequences will be even worse. Yes, young mistress. Mama Li glanced at Gu Fangzi and bowed in response. Li Shun's two servants' faces turned white. They never thought that Sangwon would have such a bad temper. They instantly fell to the ground, unable to even plead for leniency. Gu Fangzi's face was terrifyingly gloomy. Li Shun's two servants unconsciously looked towards her with pleading eyes, but she could only coldly look at them, unable to say a single word to plead for leniency. She finally understood why Sangwon had called her over to listen. First, it was to warn her. Second, it was to let her watch as Li Shun's two servants were punished without being able to plead for leniency on their behalf. In the future, which servant would be willing to risk everything to help her? The two men from Li Shun's family were quickly taken away. Sangwon glanced at Gu Fangzi and smiled faintly. This matter isn't a big one, but it isn't a small one either. Since it involves our first and third household, I think it's better to inform Mother about it. Little sister, come with me and be a witness. Gu Fangzi watched as Li Shun's two family members were taken away right under her nose. She was already very unhappy. When she heard that Sangwon wanted her to go to Wang's place to talk about this matter, she immediately felt stifled. How could she be willing to go? She snorted coldly and said, since it's such a serious matter, elder sister should go by herself. I'm a little tired, so I won't accompany you any longer. Goodbye. Stop. Sangwon coldly shouted, staring at her and said, I didn't discuss with you. Then are you ordering me? Gu Fengzi clenched her fists tightly. Her chest was about to explode from anger. She had never seen Sangwon like this. If you understand it that way, then it's fine. Sangwon met her gaze. Could it be that I can't order you? Gu Fengzi was suddenly at a loss for words. The maidservants in the house were all looking down with their hands hanging by their sides, but Gu Fengzi knew that no one was not paying attention to the battle between the two of them. Sangwon ordered her, so she really had the qualifications to order her. Let's go. Sangwon smiled and stood up. She walked forward and ordered Xingji. Help Miss Gu. Xingji came forward with 2 servant girls. Gu Fengzi's face turned red and white. She glared at Sangwon and suddenly shook off Xingji and ran forward. She stared at Sangwon and said, Sangwon, don't go too far. One day, I'll get my money back with interest. Sangwon stared back at her. You were the one who started it first. Gu Fengzi, you'd better behave yourself. There's a limit to my patience. Gu Fengzi stared at her swaying back, and her eyes were about to spit fire. She suddenly felt a little lost and dazed, as if she had never known this person in front of her. She dared to be so brazen because she knew that Fengzi would not dare to be calculative with her because she had a good temper, a good face, and pretended to be magnanimous. Once Fengzi became calculative. Once she became calculative, Gu Fengzi suddenly did not know what to do. When the two of them arrived at Wang's place, Sangwon briefly explained the matter to Wang. Naturally, she did not say that third old mistress Shi was the one who told her, and only said that the maids in Ning Garden accidentally overheard it. Hearing this, Wang Shi didn't feel angry and said, These old women are the most hateful. Fortunately, the people in Ning Garden heard these words, and went to tell you. If your third aunt knew, I'm afraid there would be another storm, and the house would be in chaos. Those 2 servants should be punished severely, but don't you think it's a little too much to chase out their family members? Aunt is right. Gu Fengzi immediately smiled and said, Our family has always been benevolent. Those 2 servants were just muddle-headed, and said a few more words. Moreover, there weren't any serious consequences. Sister should have taught them a lesson and punished them with 2 months of their salary to let them learn their lesson. Everyone is not a saint. How can there be no mistakes? Sister, why do you have to punish them so harshly and chase out their entire family? If others knew about it, they would say that the masters are mean. Gu Fengzi had no choice but to speak up in front of Sangwon. Now that Wang had spoken up, she naturally had to take the opportunity to fight for it. Wang Shi nodded her head in agreement after hearing this. Sangwon then said seriously, Mother, you can't do that. It's lucky that there weren't any serious consequences this time. If we really cause chaos in the household, not only will our own family members feel uncomfortable, won't we become a laughingstock? This daughter-in-law dares to remind you that when this daughter-in-law had just married in, sister punished 2 servants. However, those 2 servants were gossiping about sister and daughter-in-law behind their backs, clearly trying to sow discord. With that precedent, those 2 servants still dared to act so recklessly. It's clear that they are not alert enough. How can we let them off so easily this time? If we let them off lightly, I'm afraid that things will get worse in the future. Wang also thought of that matter and her face darkened. Wanyang, you're right. Those servants with loose mouths are especially hateful. What's worse is that they don't learn from their mistakes. It's good to punish them severely, so that there won't be a next time. Gu Fengzi rushed to speak to Sangwon. Older sister, what are you saying? Are you blaming Aunt for being too lenient? Shut up. Sangwon's eyes turned cold as she shouted at her. Her long, shapely eyebrows raised as she coldly said, Does younger sister also want to learn from those servants who don't learn from their mistakes and try to sow discord? Mother was benevolent and originally had good intentions. Who knew that the servants didn't appreciate her kindness? I had no choice but to be the villain. In the future, I can avoid a lot of trouble. Why does younger sister's words have a different meaning? Younger sister, are you trying to sow discord between mother and me? Everyone in the room, including Wang, was stunned. They stared blankly at Sangwon as if they didn't recognize her. This was the first time that this young mistress had lost her temper in public. Furthermore, she was scolding her mother-in-law's most beloved niece in front of her. In an instant, Gu Fangzi felt countless gazes directed at her. Her face turned red and she was so ashamed that she wished she could find a hole to hide in. In her heart, she killed Sangwon 180 times. Biting her lips, she looked at Wang with grievance. Wang was also frightened. For no reason, she felt timid and fearful. She couldn't help but smile at Sangwon. "Wan Yang, don't think too much. Feng definitely didn't mean it that way. You've always been filial to mother. How could mother not know? This matter will be handled according to what you said. With the matters of the Fu in your hands, I can rest assured." "Thank you, mother, for understanding this daughter-in-law." Sangwon immediately knelt down and said with tears in her eyes, "Just now, this daughter-in-law lost my composure. I shouldn't have scolded younger sister in front of mother. It's just that younger sister's words were too ambiguous. If I wasn't careful, it would make people think in a bad way." This daughter-in-law was anxious and couldn't help but be angry. If these words were misheard and spread out, how would this daughter-in-law have a foothold? Even if it was mother, her benevolent heart would have been ruined by others. This daughter-in-law has been taught by father and mother since childhood. Father and mother aside, elder brother and sister-in-law often teach me to be filial to the elders and be harmonious with my sisters-in-law. This daughter-in-law sincerely respects and is filial to mother. If this daughter-in-law is unfilial, not only will this daughter-in-law feel uneasy, even eldest young master will not easily forgive this daughter-in-law. Mother, please understand this daughter-in-law's feelings. When Sangwon knelt down, Gu Fangzi had no choice but to kneel down as well. She lowered her head and knelt behind Sangwon. Her heart was filled with hatred. When she heard what was said, she hurriedly apologized and admitted her mistake. She said that she didn't mean what she said and that she was clumsy and didn't know how to speak properly. When Wang saw this, she hurriedly ordered Mama Jiang and the others to help the two of them up. She sighed and said, "It was just a slip of the tongue. Let's not take it to heart. Ah, Wan Yang, mother naturally knows your character. How could I suspect you of being unfilial? Don't think like that. Feng, you're not young anymore. In the future, you have to be more careful with your words. If you speak like this again, I won't forgive you." Sangwon and Gu Fangzi hurriedly agreed. The two of them inadvertently looked at each other and immediately looked away. They understood each other's meaning in their hearts. After chatting for a while, Sangwon said her goodbyes and left. Luya supported Sangwon and her heart was filled with joy. After they left the main courtyard, the smile on her face didn't disappear. She quietly laughed and said, "Young mistress, you're really amazing. Hee, did you see that?" Miss Gu's face turned purple like a pig's liver. Let's see if she still dares to be so arrogant in the future. She thinks that our young mistress is a pushover. Sangwon tilted her head and glanced at Luya. She smiled and said, "All right, don't talk too much. If others hear it carefully and see your face full of smiles, they will think that I'm purposely teaching her a lesson." Sangwon felt extremely tired and frustrated. This kind of life was really not what she wanted, but she had to face it and deal with it. Not only could she not be passive, she also had to take the initiative. She didn't expect that Gu Fangzi would be so daring when Shi Fengju wasn't around. She dared to sow discord in front of her. If her attitude had been soft and hesitant just now, she would have been overbearingly caught by her. Who knows what kind of thoughts that soft-hearted mother-in-law would have? She had no choice but to reprimand her in front of her. Fortunately, she made the right bet this time. Her mother-in-law stood on her side. Now that she had officially fallen out with Gu Fangzi, she didn't know what would happen tomorrow or the day after. However, Gu Fangzi wouldn't stop so easily. The game had already started. Even if she didn't want to play, she could only play along. That afternoon, an old servant hurriedly came to Ning Garden to seek an audience. It just so happened that old Mistress Zhuang was hosting a flower appreciation banquet today. Wang ordered Sangwon to accompany her. When Luya heard that they were going to the Zhuang family, she subconsciously thought of the Zhuang family's son. She found an excuse and refused to go. wanting to stay behind to guard the garden. Sangwon then brought along Xingji. You're tuning into the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.